The story begins with a red-haired man who says, "It was a beautiful dream," and he wanted to end everything by removing it from the root. As we see him impaled on some spikes, he says it sure was unfortunate, and if only he hadn't done, but he doesn't finish his sentence as he dies before he can. At this moment, a yellow-haired person appears before him and says that he is finally dead. He also comments that this is how a villain dies, a meaningless death, as he walks away from his body. And that was the epilogue called The Villain's End. We see a man sighing as he is the novelist who wrote it, and his name is Nam Woo-hyun. And he says that with the death of the strongest villain in the world, his series appeared to be soon about to end. And the next chapter should wrap things up. It's a miserable experience writing a novel that he didn't want to write. He starts stretching, saying that at last he can finally call it quits after tomorrow, and that he should leave his regrets behind. Somebody starts knocking his door, which surprises him, and he wonders who it could be at this hour. He says that it's too late for anyone to be knocking so late, and he walks over to the door, asking who it is. As he gets closer, the sound stops. He thought that maybe it appeared to be some drunkard, and he says that he should just go to bed instead. But as he's heading back, he looks up, spotting a piece of paper floating in the air. He wonders where this paper came from, and as he starts reading it, it says that it is a gift and to please ask when he is in need. Woo-hyun just wonders what this gift means, and then a dark, red, ominous aura starts to leak out of it, and he sees the corpse of the villain character he created. That catches Woo-hyun off guard, and the villain says that this must be how he dies, and he's put in a lot of time and effort. He spent 10 years sharpening his blade to take revenge on the people that killed his family. He says that he's lost his lover, his friends, and he gave up on many more, but he still failed, though he's sure that Woo-hyun knows that better than anyone. Woo-hyun asks what he means by failed and asks what he means by that. The man starts to stretch his hand out toward him. Woo-hyun screams as the aura starts to envelop him. The man asks him to please do it for him, and that he'll witness what he can create. As everything starts to distort around him, we see a man laying peacefully in a bed. As he slowly opens his eyes, Woo-hyun sits up wondering if he passed out, only to see an unfamiliar area in front of him. He noticed his surrounding, and when he sees his clothes, he thought, what the heck's with his clothes? And he walks over toward the mirror, asking what is going on. As he's finally seeing his face, he says that this ominously crimson head of hair and the slime mouth, paired with his thin, slitted eyes that hid any trace of emotion. He could tell what had happened. As it appears, he has possessed his body, and that this is the body of none other than Arson Adele, the most powerful villain in his novel. And moreover, it's just a few days before his assassination. We learn he is of a half-demon bloodline. The Arson family is a line of mixed bloods descended from demons, and thanks to the power that lay within their blood. They were once one of the greatest families in the empire. However, they fell due to 6 specific families, and the bloodline of the Arson family lies solely with him. Adele, that is his backstory, and the reason he became a villain. He attempted to take revenge, but failed, and that's why he brought him his creator here. In a few days, he will die to the knights of the 6 families. He opens his status window, saying that in terms of talent, he is one of the most gifted in his novel. However, it can't compare to the gift of talents he bestowed on the main characters. And no matter how attractive the villain may be, he had no intention of letting them defeat the main character. Moreover, he is also unable to currently control his mana. And he can't believe the backstory he set to make him intimidating would come to wrap around his own throat like this. He sees the paper floating on his bed, which catches him off guard, and he recognizes it. The thought is the same paper that suddenly appeared before Adele put him into the novel in the first place, and he'd completely forgotten about it. He says even if it turns out to not be of much help, he's not in a spot to be picky, and he remembers it saying to ask when he needed something. As he sees the paper, he's confused, asking why it's blank and where the text went. He then says that this is how he would meet his end. It then starts writing, calling him the creator, telling him that if he does not know how to use the gift. If he knows how to use the gift, please answer yes or no. Woo-hyun starts shaking, asking what the heck he means by creator. Then he realizes that it's none other than Adele who appear to be writing this. Adele just tells him to write yes or no on the paper. Woo Hyun writes yes because he's ignoring him. The scroll begins to form text saying how to use information purchase, and that he will answer anything he writes on this paper, and some questions do not have a price, but others do. Adele tells him that the more important the question is, the higher the price. Woo Hyun asks how he can return to his real world. Adele tells him that is impossible. Woo Hyun thought that he wasn't even counting on it, but if so, he needs to know the method to use Manhwa and how to use Adele's traits, since he needs to take care of what's urgent. Adele tells him that this question does not require payment, and Manhwa manipulation and the method using his traits have been imprinted into his body, asking if he will accept it. Woo Hyun says yes, and he starts to smile, saying that he can feel the Manhwa. The first trait is called darkness, and it's the ability to take away someone's five senses. As we see him creating a little vortex on his hand, he says it should normally be much larger, but this will definitely come in handy. The next is the power to restrain opponents with his aura called killing intent, and it also works. Knights or trained soldiers will be able to withstand it, but it should work on ordinary people. Now he just needs to understand Adele's broken talent, which is called Position Transfer 1. It is power to switch places with an object of his choosing, and it's the best assassination skill that there is. He then starts practicing skill of position transfer, called Designate. He realized that he can only designate around about 20 square yards, and it's pathetic compared to his power in the novel. But if he keeps practicing, he can increase its unrealized potential. He decides to try his transfer with the suit of armor that's in his room. As it starts going toward it, forming a tether between the two of them. Then he uses the another position transfer, which is called Move, and he and the suit of armor start to swap places in an instant, causing one to stumble forward into the wall. He says that he guesses he can't get on the first try, but since he's racing against time, he is okay with having to do it hundreds of times if he needs to, and he'll succeed and survive. As there's knights from the 6 families on their way to kill him, the knight states that they must ensure they kill the Adele this time. As they speak, the main gates to the family estate open and the knights make their way inside. The butlers look anxious as a man asks where Adele is. We are introduced to the captain of Leon County as Captain Feltz. The butlers tell him that he is inside his room. Then Feltz asks for his state. They say he hasn't moved for a few days. Feltz seems a bit disappointed, and he and his men barge into the room. We see Woo Hyun, but now let's call him Adele because that's whose body he's in now. Adele welcomes Sir Feltz and says that surely Feltz must not have any ideas of letting a young kid live. Feltz says that's absurd, telling his men to eliminate him. One of them walks forward saying, "Yes, sir." Adele uses the first ability of Position Transfer Designate. He then swaps his position with the soldier's weapon and uses Position Transfer Move skill, and he stabs the soldier directly in the throat, much to the surprise of Feltz and his guards. Adele then lands back on his feet and Feltz south at his men to stop watching and to kill him already. Adele takes the chance to flee by jumping out of the window, and as he's falling, he throws his dagger to the floor. He then tethers himself to it and then moves to avoid the fall damage. He thought that he needs to get to the arson forest as fast as he can. As he starts running into it, Feltz tells his men that they need to chase him. Now that he's made his way into the arson forest, we see him running exhausted. He thought even if he gets lucky and somehow loses the knights and manages to clear the territory, there's no way he'll survive. So instead, he'll go through the gate in this forest to the demonic realm that has currently taken great damage because of a war with the humans. If he shows them enough talent, they might even accept him. But the issue is something else. Before he can explain it, he hears horses and wonders if they've already caught up to him. He heard Feltz telling his men to spread out and find him. And then he continues saying that the issue is he doesn't know exactly where the gate is, but he's sure that he's decently near it. He then steps on a tree branch, which makes cracking sound that alert the knight, and he realizes that this is bad. As a massive green aura attack starts cleaving through the forest, Feltz says that he knew Adele was hiding and appeared to be somewhere around there. We see Adele landing with his position transferability, and he thought that he can only do it 1 or 2 more times, and he needs to hurry and find the gate. But he says maybe there's no other way. He then asks the actual Adele for the exact location of the gate that leads to the demonic realm. He says the information has a price, and he needs to pay with 100 gold coins or an artifact with a rank of relic or above. Adele says that there's no way he would have something like that right now. But a powerful attack starts from behind, sending him flying through the air. As he starts rolling along the ground, he crashes into a tree. Felt approaches him, asking if he ran away because he wanted to live. And he says that he will die here whether he likes it or not. Adele tells him not to make him laugh, as he's not going to die here because there's still one method left. And whether he lives or dies, he decides that it's worth a shot. Feltz asks if he's really going to resist until the end, saying that he supposes he still is the patriarch. Adele asks why Feltz was acting all dignified when a bunch of adults have to come catch one kid, and that he should change his career to nanny, because that's more like what it is. Then Adele mockingly says it would still probably be too difficult for the dude by himself. Feltz gets taunted and says that he's going to send him off without pain. But now he will pierce Adele's heart with a sword that has been granted to him by Count Leon. He thrusts forward, telling Adele to die, but Adele smiles, saying now is his chance. He holds up the scroll paper as Feltz's sword attacks it, and then the scroll thanks him for paying the price. It is barely more than the required price, but it is going to guide him to the Gatoff demonic realm. Adele's just glad that his gamble paid off, while Feltz is surprised and confused since his sword is starting to vanish out of his hand. Adele then looks over, seeing a giant red light guiding him, and he uses his position transfer to instantly get closer to it. Feltz watches him leave and yells at him to stop, but Adele has no plans to. He can't believe that he got followed all the way to the arson forest in the first place. He's now finally right in front of the demonic gate. Adele ruses toward the light, while the knight standing behind him yells, saying that he won't let him go, and throw the piece of log, sending it directly towards him. As it gets close to the back of his head, Adele smiles, saying that he'll see him next time, and he moves himself into the portal. And Feltz just looks pissed off that Adele actually managed to escape from him. Adele even gives him a little salute. Feltz screams, "Darn it." Scene shift where we know that Adele went into the demonic realm. Adele wonders how much time has passed. As we see him eating some dry meat, he says after waking up from passing through the gate, he appeared to be inside of a dungeon. It's a man-made dungeon that someone created called the Secret Demonic Arts Place. He wonders why there's even dry meat in a stone bed in the first place, and if someone appeared to be protecting a treasure there. Not to mention, there's a barrier that deflects blades from the front and a stone guardian. He doesn't know which high-ranking family made this, but it's full of strange aspects, and that guardian is scary just to look at. If he goes for it now, he might just get destroyed. The paper starts lighting up, telling him that this is the first time he will not receive a penalty, but he cannot offer objects that are not in his possession as a price, and not following the rule will result in no exchange of information. Adele thought this guy is insane, but this means he's letting it go this time around. He then notices something strange in stone wall. He walks over, putting his palm on it, and he says that he can sense these things as he is in Adele's body. A voice tells him that he does not have the right, and he thinks it's a function that deactivates the barrier, saying that it's a shame and he needs to find another method to get out of there. He looks at a piece of stone on the ground, thinking that it fell from the guardian, so if it's stone, things might go his way. He starts to tether himself towards it, and then moves, swapping where he and the stone are. Now that he's teleported past the barrier, he is glad that it actually worked. But he didn't realize that Guardian leaps directly at him, mouth open. Scene shift to a giant castle. Somebody spilled something on the floor and is getting yelled at for spilling the water on the floor as another person watches from up top. We are introduced to a patriarch of the demonic realm, Bear's family, named Crete. Crete says that Ashur is busy, perhaps because his daughter is attempting to raid the mid-level hidden domain soon, and that this is quite tricky. If she succeeds, she'll receive the right to enter the Citan, which is a demonic realm school. But even if he orders her to fail, she'll go against his words. That is because only through entering Sidon will she be able to get revenge on the humans who killed her mother. He thinks that she's feeble, and if she will be able to survive in a place where only demon-like bastards gather, and he sigh out of worry. Then we see a maid enters, telling him that there's trouble, and he asks what it is for her to be causing such fuss. She apologizes as she just wanted to inform him there appear to be news that someone is in the hidden domain right now. He asks if she's certain it's in hidden domain. She says yes. There are no traces of them having opened the door to enter, so everyone is confused. Creed asks if their identity has been revealed, and she says that they touched the function that only Creed can use from inside, but that's about all they know. They don't know who he is. Creed says that perhaps he appeared to be forcibly summoned through the gate that appeared to be made during the human-demon war. But he tells the maid that he'll definitely die, so not to worry about it, and that they should focus on preparing for his daughter's exam. She says, understood, and Creed looks out of window, saying that if things go well, he might get a good pawn if they don't die in the hidden domain. That is. It jumps back to Adele, and he's swapping his place with the stone once more. As he screams and reaches for the ground, he says that he almost died, and that means even if the barrier disappears, he'll be in trouble if he goes out. But then he says, wait, wasn't the guardian made out of stone too? And he decides to try it. As he begins to activate his designate ability, tethering himself to the guardian, he smiles, saying that it worked. He then swaps their position, putting the barrier in between the two of them. The guardian is surprised and starts attacking the barrier, trying to get out. Adele says that he's going to die doing that, and that now he just needs to find the exit. But he immediately comes to a standstill as there's another barrier, this time a praying mantis on the other side. He says there's going to be a mission at every stage, it seems, and that it's more dangerous than the wolf. But as expected, it appeared to be also made out of stone. He's now left it on the other side as well. Now this time the terrain begins falling, and he starts swapping places with it. He says that this is very easy as long as there is a position to transfer within the trap area. He safely lands on the other side, and voice welcome him for reaching the end. Adele surprised, they're welcoming an intruder. He says it seems like the boss room, asking if there's someone in there. As he moves forward, he sees a skeleton in armor, and Adele recognizes it as a Death Knight. He says based on his force, he seems to be similar to Feltz. The Death Knight tells Adele that he expresses his respect for making it all the way there. As Adele tethers himself to it and swaps the two of them once more, the Death Knight is still just trying to finish his sentence. Adele spots the treasure, saying that it's bigger than he thought. There's also an ornament with a black dragon engraved on it. He says the ornament seems familiar, wondering where he's seen it before. He says that of the highest-ranked demon families, Black Dragon is evil and prideful, which is the seventh in pride, which is also the bear's family. He thought if Crete were to catch him, then he is dead for sure. He opens the box, saying that since it's come to this, he will empty it and run, and there must be a useful item in this place that would help him escape. But as he opens it, something jumps out of the box and attaches to his face, causing him to start choking. It forcefully enters his throat, choking him and causing pain, and he grabs on his head, screaming in agony. And then we see a ton of blood flying out. We hear Adele panting as we see his eyeball on the ground. He wondered how long he was unconscious for and why his eye popped out. He pulls out his sword and looks at his reflection and sees that his eye is now black and purple. He wonders if the liquid that jumped at him is what he thinks it is. As he starts looking at his stats, we see that he has gained a trait now called the Eye of Superbia, which gives him an extreme increase in dynamic eyesight that activates after killing an enemy. He says with this he'll never lose to groups of people weaker than him, and thinks it's not bad that he might have made the right choice in coming to Demonic Realm. He stands up saying that he's gotten everything he needs, so he should head out. And he says that he appeared to be too focused on the chest, that he didn't realize that there is a door behind him. He wonders what to do as he made quite a commotion, so a lot of troops will be waiting outside, and he'll die if he heads out. And he wonders if he needs to kneel faster than light for him to not die on sight. He says, First things first, if they find out that he's from the arson family, they'll kill him even if he begs for mercy. So, he needs to hide his insignia. The Death Knight yells, saying to open the door now, which startles Adele, and it says that Her Highness is coming quickly, so open the door. Adele wonders what this means, and then says that maybe the reason there appear to be is for dried meat and a rock bed because this place is a domain created by the higher families for testing. He says that he needs to find out who owns it. As he stole the reward they should have gotten, they'll cut him to pieces on the spot. So he asks the scroll who the closest character to him is. Adele says that that information has a price, so he should pay with something that has a value of 100 gold coins or an artifact with a rank of relic or above. He wonders what else he can pay with and decides to use his mana and pays with 100 of his max mana. He says it's going to be rough, but he can always recover it once he survives. Adele agrees to the deal and starts taking his mana and says that the closest person to him is none other than Renee, the youngest daughter of Crete. As we see her walking forward, Adele says that his life is over and this is a domain created by the bear's family for the youngest daughter's training and that the Eye of Superbia must be her reward for when she finishes the domain. And Renee, who has sufficient authority within the family, is going to cut down the guardians like butter and show up in front of him. She's doing exactly that. We see her killing the Death Knight in one strike. She glares over, staring at Adele, and he says that he'll do it. She points her blade at him and asks who he is. He gets on one knee and congratulates her in clearing the domain, saying that she has finally become worthy. She starts to release killing intent, telling him to explain now, and he says that the Patriarch has ordered him to act as her guard. He says that their eyes met, but she didn't seem to recognize the Eye of Superbia. She asks if they really sent him for this, and he says that despite how he looks, he's rather skilled and is going to use her to get out of there. She starts to laugh, and he wonders if maybe she doesn't trust him. He swaps places with her sword, closing the gap in an instant. This catches her off guard, and we see her holding onto his wrist, and he says that he believes he will be useful in protecting her. She immediately pulls her hand away and seems extremely pissed, but she shrugs it off, and he says thankfully she's overlooking it. Adele says she should head out and that she should head to the Patriarch immediately as he's waiting. She says okay, and he says that he'll be on his way to take care of other tasks the Patriarch has entrusted him. He thought he needs to get out of there as soon as he can. As he opens the door, he says that he'll make sure not to be late. Renee freezes up, and we see her father Crete standing in front of her. Crete begins laughing while releasing an aura, and Adele says that this is bad, and he wonders why Crete is there, that he will kill him if he sees that he took the Eye of Superbia, but he wonders why he's not reacting. He asks if she successfully cleared the domain, and she says yes while sweating nervously. He says that's good, and ordered Adele to follow him. And Adele just wonders what he's thinking. As he starts following as well, he says it's impossible to shake them all off, and he's out of things to offer the paper, which means he can't use its power. They finally head to the mansion, which Adele recognizes, and Crete stop, telling everybody to return to their quarters. He orders Adele to wait there, as he'll call for him later. Adele thought that this is his chance to leave, but he senses people watching him from the bushes and says, never mind. Back inside of his office, we see Renee standing before Crete, and he says that she's finished his last task, asking if she really must enter the training facility. She says yes, and he looks back up at his window, thinking about it, asking how Adele is. This question catches her off guard, and she thinks about how Adele instantly closed the gap and says that he's strong. Crete smiles, saying that he sees, and this is pretty intriguing, but he tells her that since she has proven herself worthy, she may now head to Sidon, just as she wished. She gets really excited thanking him, but Crete thought that Intruder would die immediately after breaking into the domain, but he survived and even claimed the Eye of Superbia, and there's also Renee's opinion of him, and that he is definitely worth using. But Adele just wonders how long he need to be waiting there. Sometime later at sunset, we see Adele inside being led by a butler, and the butler tells Crete that he's brought him. We see Crete sitting at his desk, and he begins to glare at Adele. Adele just wonders what he's thinking, asking why he let him live. Crete smiles, calling him a bastard, saying that he sure fooled his daughter well, and release more strong purple aura. It starts to pressure Adele to the point that he finds it hard to breathe. And then he falls onto the ground saying that he knows he doesn't plan on killing him. Crete immediately retracts his aura as he finds it curious, and Adele thinks that Crete's demonic energy sure is incredible. Crete tells him that he's quick-witted asking what his name is, and Adele introduces himself. Crete then raises his hand with aura around it that makes Adele float up into the sky. He brings him really close to him, and Adele asks what he wants from him. Crete tells him to open his mouth as we see a small serpent flying toward him. Crete says that he just needs to continue doing what he tells his daughter. As the creature starts to crawl down his throat, Crete says that if he has any other thoughts, that poison will rip apart his heart. He will also prepare somewhere for him to stay, so to wait until he calls him. He tells Adele to take his leave, but Adele just wonders what the hell is all this. He gets taken to a house, and the butler says he will be staying here from now on. Adele explains how he became a dependent of this household because of Crete's will, but he's thankful enough that he let him live. But he can tell that he is being used. He was partially acknowledged by Crete, so this might be a good situation, but above all, he needs to get rid of this thing in his chest, for his transfer has to work. He says it worked as it wasn't a living object. He says he's glad that it's not active, and if it failed, that would have been nasty. He knows Crete will notice if he kills it. So, he wonders what to do. The creature starts to open its eyes, and Adele says it's waking up because the mana it consumed from inside his body got cut off. So, he starts to put some mana onto his fingertip, telling it to eat this, and that he has no choice but to appease it like this. As he starts telling it to go back to sleep, it does so as it curls up on its little bed. He made it, and he sighs, saying that he can finally relax. He wonders how much more he'll have to deal with, and he thinks he's going to pass out. He opens his status window once more, and he says that he should still check. We see his position transfer has now become level 2, but the mana amount is the issue. And compared to the protagonists, it's just a drop in the ocean, and he wonders how to increase it and what he must do. Then he remembers there's a method. Next day, as we see Renee telling him that she doesn't like it, Adele asks what she means, and he says that it's actually been 3 days since he's been assigned as her guard. She always shows very cold reactions toward him. When she appeared to be younger, she had a bright personality. But after losing her mother to the humans, she changed. And as the author, he feels sorry for her. One of the butlers starts calling out for the both of them, saying that Crete is looking for them both. The reason the patriarch would call them must be regarding her entrance to Sidon. Although she hoped she'd be able to since she succeeded at writing the domain, Crete did not allow this. Crete tells her that Sidon is not an easy place, and with her ability, she'd die after a while without being able to properly avenge her mother. Adele says that he feels like he shouldn't be here. As Renee starts to get gloomy, Crete says that if she were to take Adele as her guard, he will permit the entrance to the academy. She shakes her head, saying no, and Adele wonders why she hates him so much. He explains that Sidon is the demonic realm school, where all of the demonic realms' prospering children gather. They were constantly in conflict with the imperial school, which the protagonist went to. In that setting, many students, including Renee, die. It's the worst location where everybody's deaths are just inevitable. Renee's eyes start to tear up, and Adele says he doesn't understand why she's trying to go to a place like that, and if it were him. But then he says that maybe it's the best place for them to gather forces. He knows most of the big incidents that occur between the Imperial School and Saitan, and he decides to try it. He tells Crete he has a request. Crete stares at him, and Adele thinks that if he's going to be dragged there, he should get away with what he can. He then requests that he wants something related to mana. Crete laughs, saying that he'd asked him to remove what's in his chest instead. Adele thinks that surely he can't let him know about the fact that the poison worm inside of him is already gone. Renee sees him shaking, and Crete calls him an arrogant bastard, but it's not a difficult request, so he'll hear him out. He tells Renee to take her leave, and she bows. And as she walks away, she stares back to Adele. He wonders why she hates the idea of going with him so much. Adele wonders what Crete is going to give him an elixir, but an artifact wouldn't be bad either. Crete says that it's a treasure that those of the family might react sensitively to. So, he sends his daughter away. This catches Adele off guard that it's a family treasure, as Crete tells him that he knows the mana he has is very little. He'll die in his daughter's place, so this much he can do for him. He tells Adele to come close, as he'll transfer the bear's family's mana cultivation technique to him. Adele did not expect this dash, the mana cultivation technique. Crete begins chanting, "O demon god, grant your servant clarity amidst chaos. Bestow upon us rightful trials, and let not the thousands of demons starve, yet do not test them either. Should you heed our call, your name shall be glorified." Adele sighs once the ceremonial chant concludes. Crete notes that an ordinary person would have lost their sanity after hearing such words, calling Adele an intriguing individual. With this cultivation technique, mana will be directly bestowed upon him by the demon god, granting him power to obtain whatever he desires. Adele is startled to hear that the source is the demon god. Crete then implies that Adele's family may be connected to the 7 deadly sins. When Adele presses for clarification, Crete reveals that he has already planted a worm poison inside him, making it irrelevant whether Adele is a spy. Adele thought that he never included the arson family among the 7 deadly sins. Crete simply tells him he can leave. Outside, in the forest, Adele sits meditating on a rock. He decides to train there, fearing his mana might spiral out of control. As he begins to feel the energy swirl around him, he calls out to the demon god. He knows that accepting demonic energy will forever prevent him from using human mana, but he has no other choice. The demon god appears, glaring down with glowing red eyes, calling him a mongrel. Adele is confused and wonders if the demon god means what he thinks. The god states he doesn't believe Adele carries the blood of that child, but rather the blood of a filthy traitor. Adele asks if he is truly the demon god, to which the entity confirms, revealing he is known as the god of pride. Adele nervously inquires if the god intends to kill him. The demon god replies that had he wanted that, Adele would already be dead. Instead, he finds himself unwilling to kill Adele, perhaps because they share the same sin. As a sign of kinship, he bestows upon Adele a mark symbolizing their shared path. However, he warns Adele not to succumb to pride, even while calling him an arrogant traitor. Adele learns that receiving this mark grants him 3 additional lives. The mark appears as a tattoo. Suddenly, he senses someone behind him and turns to find Renee watching from behind a tree. Unsure if she overheard anything, he's taken aback when she blushes and calls him a dark priest. He wonders what misunderstanding she's having. Back at the house, Adele reflects that it's been a month since he received the mark, and his mana has increased drastically, likely due to his traits of interest and focus. He thinks that in a few years, he might surpass the heirs of the 6 human houses. For now, he could even conquer the hidden domain. However, he's distracted by the sight of Renee training outside his house instead of at the usual grounds. He approaches her, and she responds with surprising formality. He notes that while it's nice, she's no longer avoiding him. She mistakenly believes he's a priest. In this world, only dark priests can commune with the demon god, so her assumption makes sense. However, her treating him like a superior might cause dangerous rumors. He tells her to treat him the same as she did before, explaining that he's only following Crete's orders to protect her. Taking his words literally, she promptly orders him to fetch water, leaving him stunned. As expected from the family of pride, her demeanor shifts instantly. Resigned, he agrees. Later, as she drinks the water, Adele contemplates the urgent need to conquer the domain before the main character reaches the demonic realm. He needs the treasure to survive in Saitan. When he asks Renee about her preparations for Saitan enrollment, she questions his sudden interest. He explains its concern for her well-being, urging her to double-check everything. Suspicious, Renee accuses him of trying to sneak off somewhere and even wonders if he's tired of her. Caught off guard, Adele fabricates a story about planning to conquer a nearby domain for her safety. Surprisingly, she buys it, sort of, and decides to go with him. She unsheathes her blade, ready for battle. We learn that it's called the Domain of the Undying, a place Adele explains was once ruled by necromancers, but after the human-demon war, it became a land overrun by wraith-like soldiers. Renee acknowledges she knows about the area. Adele deduces that if the domain unsettles her, it must be at least a mid to upper level domain. The number of enemies will likely have increased, so her help might be valuable. However, traveling together makes it harder to hide their mission from Crete. He warns her not to come if it's too risky, especially if the patriarch finds out. She interrupts him, revealing she knows a secret exit. They head to one of the outer walls where she uncovers a hidden hole. Adele remarks on her familiarity with sneaking out, to which she offers no denial. They escape through the hole and reach a mountain ridge. Adele asks how much farther they need to go, admitting he's unfamiliar with the area since he's never had a reason to leave the estate. Renee tells him they're close. They soon reach a site of ruins. Renee mutters, "Darn son of a Cerberus," which Adele guesses is equivalent to an insult in their world. He notes that only he knows the true entrance to the domain, hidden under the largest rock statue. They begin digging and find it. As they descend into the domain, torches light their path. Adele is surprised by the brightness and notices a church ahead, confirming they're in the right place. Inside, Adele compares the place to the bear's domain, but on a much higher level, likely containing 100 new graves. Renee urges them to move forward, and Adele draws a dagger. Suddenly, skeleton soldiers rise from the ground. Adele tells Renee he'll leave this to her, and she charges in with a burst of aura, shattering the enemies. Adele notes that a necromancer must be summoning them from the back. Renee rushes ahead, but the defeated bones reassemble. A sinister voice welcomes them, revealing itself as the necromancer, and commands its undead to eliminate the intruders. Renee is frustrated that the enemies keep reviving, and Adele explains they must defeat the caster to end it. Before he can say more, he's ambushed, but manages to decapitate the enemy. He tells Renee that destroying the caster's orb will break the summoning. A massive skeletal warrior appears, but Renee charges forward, obliterating it. Adele uses his upgraded teleportation ability, tethering to the caster's orb and swapping places with a designated sword. He catches the orb mid-air and crushes it with his mana, ending the spell. With the necromancer defeated, the soldiers vanish. The caster thanks Adele, and Adele notes the tragedy here all happened because of what he wrote, and that he sure hopes it's at peace. She then calls out to him, asking if there's something left to do, and he says it's time for the reward. Among the loot, he finds the Fong of Darkness, a dagger that converts darkness into mana and boosts speed in the dark, and the Eternal Full Moon Ring, which enhances mana sensitivity under moonlight. Adele lets Renee have the ring while he keeps the dagger. As he places the ring on her finger, she blushes intensely. He's puzzled by her reaction, wondering if it carries symbolic meaning in demon culture. She's overwhelmed by the ring's power and thanks him. Adele jokes about taking all the gold, but quickly backtracks when she glares at him, claiming he meant to divide it equally. They return to the mansion. Adele spends his days running errands for Renee, or training his mana. After a month, he's reached 1,300 mana, average for the demon realm. One day, Crete summons both him and Renee, telling them it's time to enter Sidon. They prepare to head to the capital for their academy entrance. Renee hesitates, but bows to her father. Adele follows suit. As they depart, Crete wishes him well. Adele watches Crete watching them, thinking that even demons care about their children. Though uncertain of what lies ahead, he resolves to accomplish his goals in Sidon. The journey to the capital begins. Adele notices Renee hasn't spoken a word since they departed, and he wonders if he did something wrong. She glances over at him, thinking that she didn't like him at first because he looked suspicious, but he's better looking than she thought. Adele awkwardly laughs, saying that the weather sure is great today. Renee reflects that his words and actions may seem unconvincing, and while he lacks power, he might truly be a priest. She recalls witnessing him speak to the demon god and decides not to doubt him, even if it seems foolish. Looking down at the ring on her finger, she blushes deeply, noting that in the demon realm, a ring placed by someone of the opposite gender is considered an eternal vow. She wonders what kind of vow Adele made when he did it so casually. Adele tries to break the tension, saying they'll arrive in about an hour. Renee seems disappointed that's all he had to say, but responds with a simple okay. He's still confused and asks if he did something wrong, but she tells him to be quiet as she plans to take a nap. They finally arrive in the capital of the demon realm. Adele is surprised to see how similar it looks to the human world, though its medieval aesthetic and the residents' horns and tattoos distinguish it. Elite demons are marked by visible tattoos, like one he notices on a passerby's neck, similar to his own. Renee calls out to him, urging him to keep up. She informs him that the entrance exam is in 2 days, but they must register first. Adele suggests sightseeing, but she declines, seemingly uninterested. He wonders if she's feeling homesick, noting that she rarely left the house since her mother's death, and he can't figure her out. As they continue forward, he says that Sidan is incredible and it must be triple the size of an ordinary university. As they arrive to register, an official sneers at someone and tell him to come back in 2 days. He calls for the next, and Adele says they're here to register for entry. Official is confused, asking Adele what he is, since he doesn't seem to be a demon, asking if a half-demon is really trying to apply, and they may have lost the war, but he asks what kind of place he thinks this is. Adele says he can see a depressing future ahead if somebody as ugly as this is going to treat him so badly. Official continues to flame him, and Renee asks what's wrong, and he looks over, spotting her. He spots her horns, saying that this sure is incredible, as he didn't expect to see a child of one of the 7 deadly sins houses, and that if she's an applicant, she should state her house and identity. She says house bears in her name, and that this is her guard who will be admitting along with her. He says that if they're allowing a half-demon to be a bodyguard, the 7 deadly sins sure have lowered their standards, and he can't believe that Satan's about to get one admitted. She tells him this is enough, and she will not stand by and watch him insult the bear's house any further. Official says they don't discriminate against the identity of the applicant, so to forget about what he remarked, and he asks for Adele's house and identity. Adele lies, claiming he's from House Pixie, and provides his name. The official responds that their registration is complete, and they should return in a couple of days. Reflecting on the past, Adele explains that during the Human-Demon War, half-demons were powerful allies to the humans. It's no surprise the demons harbor resentment toward them, though the hostility frustrates him. He knows there's little he can do about it. Turning to Renee, he says they should find a place to stay for the time being. She's still just pissed. We see them standing in front of one of the houses, and he says this looks good enough. She says that the buildings here are too old, but he tells her it can't be helped because they don't have money. The 10 gold decree gave them will barely be enough for the 2 of them to live on for a month. After the war's aftermath, House Bears has become poor, so he couldn't ask for more. He asks if they should go in now, and as they do, they get welcomed as he asks if there's enough room for 2 people to stay in for 2 days. He says there is, but then he asks if he'll be in the same room as the person beside him, making Renee freeze up. He tells the dude separate rooms, as she's literally steaming out of her head. He says that it'll be 2 gold for 2 rooms for 2 days, and that they're on the 2nd floor. Adele says that this much is around 200,001 in Korean currency, so it's not too bad. She says that she'll head up first, and she looks a little disappointed. He says that he'll bring up the luggage soon, telling her to have a good rest. She's still a little withdrawn, but says that he should too. And he says that she's always lived in a huge mansion, so it must be her first time sleeping in a place like this, but she'll probably get used to it soon, though. Adele says that it's time for him to rest up for the next 2 days as well. It jumps to the academy as a soldier is yelling, telling all the applicants to head inside and follow the instructions. Adele says there are so many people. He wonders if there's at least 100 here. He can't believe there are this many applicants signing up to defeat humans, and he must be careful to not get his identity exposed. Somebody says that from this point onwards, they should all have their ID and board in order. Adele wonders what exactly they're boarding. As a train pulls up into the station, Adele says that he did not expect this. They say multiple maze-like dimensional gates have been set up to block intruders. Only by taking the train can one come sight in. To think that enormous fortress they just caught sight of appeared to be just a part of this place and not the actual academy. He wonders how big it is. As they sit down, the voice says that they'll be arriving at sight-in shortly. So brace for impact. Adele looks surprised as when he opens his eyes, we finally are introduced to the academy. The train comes to a stop and they start getting off of it and are told to head to the auditorium for the exam. As Adele and Renee walk, there's so many people leaving the train as well. Adele says, this place is huge to the point that it feels a little overwhelming, and there are mostly young demons here, but he wonders if there are other heirs of the 7 deadly sins too. He spots some people wearing uniforms, saying that they are not students, and they seem to be the instructors. Maybe if he can make a good impression on them. Life here might be easier. Renee says that time's up. As the door closes, the lights then cut off. He says it appeared to be clearly daytime before, wondering if this is some kind of magical effect, and he doesn't know what kind of exam it will be. We hear a woman's voice telling everybody to be silent. As the light shines on her, they all look up and she glares down towards them, and she welcomes them all to sight-in, calling them a bunch of brainless idiots. She remarks in disbelief that so many people are eager to throw their lives away this year. Adele is stunned by the sheer intensity her voice alone commands. With a cold laugh, she declares that the introductions are over and the entrance exam will begin immediately. As she begins to release her overwhelming aura, Adele glances at Renee in concern, but she calmly tells him to focus on the exam instead. People around them begin choking and falling to their knees as the instructors watch the students. One of the instructors talks to the other one, saying that the headmaster sure has a twisted taste, asking what he thinks. He says, no matter how talented you are, if your mental strength is weak, it's useless. There's a reason that Headmaster Lucian personally oversees the first stage of the entrance exam, which is called the mental endurance test, just to verify whether applicants can withstand interrogation and keep secrets if captured by humans. The man says that it's been 5 minutes and almost no one is left standing, and that this must be enough for now. And aside from 8 people, everybody else fell down. She had high expectations since there were so many applicants. The man says that about 40% lasted more than 5 minutes compared to the last intake, which is a lot. She says that's a relief, and they say that this intake includes all the heirs of the 7 deadly sins house, and that the rumors must be true since there were that many applicants standing. He says that makes sense, but tells her to wait, asking who that kid is since he doesn't seem to be one of the heirs. She says that's right, but yet he stayed sane for the entire time, just like the rest. But at this rate, he's not going to last much longer as we see him on his knees. The man realizes something is wrong. Rather, something is going wrong as Adele starts to explode out with a red, ominous aura, which surprises the instructors and even gets Lucian's gaze. They realize this is dangerous. As Adid starts aura farming in the middle of them, the instructor grabs his sword, saying they need to kill him here. The instructor says that at first he didn't seem that special. But without warning the air, change around him, and it appeared to be an emotionless killing intent, just like what one would have when picking flowers or killing insects. Not the primitive killing intent of regular beasts, but that of the worst murderers. It made every single instructor turn to him, and that the dude reacted before he realized. Lucian looks over at him, surprising him, because he realizes he's in the wrong, as he shouldn't feel nervous when he's up against a mere applicant. The other instructor smiles at him, and we see people falling onto the ground still. Adele says he's going to lose his mind soon, and he needs to figure out a way to endure. He says that maybe if it's his killing intent, it might be enough to go against the aura, and he had no other choice and started screaming while releasing it. Lucian says they're holding out pretty well, and that she's going to increase the intensity a bit more. Adele starts laughing, saying that he can handle just a bit more, and their aura starts colliding with one another, rather hers disperses around him. She's surprised by this and Adal pants, but he starts to get his breath back, saying it really did work, and now he feels much better. He wonders how Renee is doing, and he glances over at her, seeing her shaking, but still standing. He says that she's holding out pretty well as expected, and that the heirs of the 7 deadly sins were also holding out pretty well too. And we are introduced to them. The heir of envy is named Bolton. The heir of lust is named Fron. The heir of gluttony is named Samuel. The heir of sloth is Aaron. The heir of greed is Gur. And Adele says that some of the characters were written with genuine affection, but they're all fated to be killed by the main character's party, and 6 of them, including Renee. Something then catches his attention, and he says that the long white hair, the red eyes, and the crown of thorns, there's no mistaking it that this is the worst villain in the future of the demonic realm. It's none other than the Demon Lord, which is the heir of wrath named Diana. The aura then stops abruptly, as that is the end of the first exam. Adele explains that the Demon King is traditionally from the family of Wrath, and there's no reason for her to be here, since the successor to the Demon Lord has legit no reason to come to Sidon as an applicant, and he wonders if something that he's not aware of happened. Some of the students begin shouting in disbelief, insisting there's no way they failed. They question the legitimacy of the exam, arguing that surely their lineage should matter. One student screams for the headmaster, only to be silenced when an instructor grabs him by the head and slams him to the ground. The instructor coldly states that he doesn't care who their parents are and demands if the student understands. He then throws him aside and declares that anyone who couldn't last 5 minutes in the first exam is unworthy. The gates are ordered closed, and those who failed are dismissed. Adele reflects that Saitan is truly ruthless. He's relieved to have passed. Then it hits him. The woman overseeing the test is the academy's headmaster. No wonder she seemed familiar. Despite her youthful appearance, she's one of the strongest beings in the demonic realm. We're formally introduced to her as Lucian. Adele acknowledges that while he was fortunate to pass the first exam, he'll need to be even more careful moving forward. The next stage will be even tougher. As others begin to talk about Renee, he notes how popular she seems. It makes sense, given that she and the others who withstood the trial are heirs of the 7 deadly sins. Still, no one seems to be paying attention to him, despite the fact that he endured the same challenge. Renee, however, congratulates him warmly, telling him he did well. He modestly replies that it was just luck, but internally he's satisfied. At the very least, he's made an impression that he's not just another ordinary applicant. He's confident the instructors, and especially the headmaster, will remember him. The instructors then yell, getting everybody's attention, and we are introduced to the male instructor named Ares, who has a tattoo on his throat. Adele says that he looks like he would carry around a knife in his pockets, and Ares congratulates them all on passing the first exam for their mental strength. It appeared to be a test to see if they could maintain sanity in a situation where they were tortured by humans in the future. Also, the 8 applicants who held out until the end will receive extra points, and if they perform just as well in the second exam, they will be allowed to enter the weaponry. Adele says that's really lucky, and he's glad that he decided to hold out until the end. And he can sense the envy from everybody else. Ares says that he will now explain the second exam, as they will be showing their abilities. In particular, they will be showing what talents and weapons they can use against humans. The class they are assigned to may depend on this exam, so they should keep that in mind. And Adele says that he must mean that they'll be assigned to the appropriate class, depending on what weapons and talents they use. And he wonders what kind of human they'll be going up against. Ares says that he will now show them who they will be facing in the second exam. As he raises his fingers and snaps them, a blue aura starts to form from his hands. Something begins to appear from the midst of the violent aura. As we see a man in a tiger outfit brandishing a weapon, and Adele recognizes him, saying that this is the strongest hero among the heads of the 6 great families, and his name is Nine Cell. Nine Cell then begins to release a blue aura, and Adele wonders why he's even here. This whole situation feels so random. Renee turns to him and asks if he knows who that is. Of course he does. That's the head of House 90, someone deeply connected to the original story's protagonist. But it's not just a close connection. His bloodline was determined from birth. This man is the protagonist's father, the legendary Sword Saint, who built the most powerful house through sheer talent alone. The other spectators quickly recognize him too, murmuring, "That's the Sword Saint. They're trying to eliminate us from the start." Adele comments, "Makes sense. He did wipe out quite a few demon houses, after all." Ares addresses the group. "Naturally, I don't expect you all to withstand the full might of the Sword Saint. He'll only be using up to 10% of his power." Renee raises an eyebrow. "Only 10%? That sounds too easy." Adele shakes his head. "Not at all. Even weakened, a monster is still a monster. 10% of his strength could destroy an entire city. How are we supposed to pass a test this brutal?" He thinks about using an information scroll to get more details, but he doesn't have much money and the number of questions is limited. Ares continues, "With your current levels, facing him alone would be suicide, so you'll be split into teams. To keep things balanced, the top 8 students will be placed in separate locations, and the rest will be assigned randomly." Adele mutters, "So I guess I won't be getting carried." Around them, students begin glaring at Renee, clearly hoping to be carried by her instead. Others shoot glares at Adele, who just sighs. "I'm used to it. They all think I just got lucky." Renee pokes his shoulder. "Get a pass and come back safe." Adele nods. "Same to you. Good luck." Ares begins calling out the groups. Adele is assigned to Group 33, along with Kenna, Chris, and Sanchez. Adele glanced around the area, his expression unreadable. He had no idea who these people were. As his new teammates gathered around, Adele took the initiative to introduce himself. Chris stepped forward soon after, introducing both himself and Kenna. Sanchez, on the other hand, looked visibly irritated. "Why is he our team leader?" Sanchez muttered under his breath. "What a disgrace to my house." Adele frowned at the comment. "Even the background characters are looking down on me? No way this guy thinks his house is that important," he thought. Trying to steer the conversation back on track, Adele said, "Let's all just do our best." Chris and Kenna nodded in agreement. "We need to assign roles," Adele continued. "Let's start with what weapons and abilities you use. Chris, you go first." Chris stepped forward, his tone confident as he explained, "My ability is mana transformation. I can deploy a triangular prism and morph it into armor or a sword. It's not high in killing power, but it's versatile." Adele gave an approving nod. "Not bad. You pass." His gaze shifted to the next teammate. "Kenna, your turn." "I'm more of a support type than a frontline fighter," Kenna replied calmly. "Support as in buffs?" Adele asked. She nodded. "I pray to the demon god to enhance my allies' speed." Without waiting for further instruction, she began chanting in an arcane language that resembled the script from an enchantment table. Almost instantly, Adele felt a subtle lightness spread through his limbs. "How does that feel?" she asked, tilting her head. "Any lighter?" Adele gave a casual shrug. "I think so." Kenna pouted. "You're mean." A soft chuckle escaped Adele. "Just joking. Don't be upset. It's better than nothing, even if I can barely feel it. Honestly, I'm not sure how you passed the first test." He then turned towards Sanchez. "Your turn. What's your ability?" "Better if I just show you," Sanchez responded coolly. As he activated his power, stone began to form and harden around his body, encasing him in a rugged, defensive shell. A hardening ability. Perfect for a tank. Sanchez narrowed his eyes. "And what about your ability?" Without warning, Adele swapped positions, reappearing directly in front of Sanchez in the blink of an eye. Startled, Sanchez stumbled backward. It's teleportation, Adele said with a grin. Chris and Kenna both looked genuinely impressed. That's a really cool ability, Kenna exclaimed. Adele then thanked them, but internally, he's cautious. There are too many unknowns. I'm not revealing my true ability just yet. He explains that the positioning of this should be simple. Chris and Sanchez, both strong defenders, position themselves at the front. He'd take the center, with Kenna providing support from the rear. He checked if everyone was okay with the plan. Kenna affirmed, while Sanchez mumbled raps from the back. Ares announced it was time for the second test, instructing each group to prepare. Adele declared the trials were finally beginning as Group 1 stepped forward. Despite facing the Sword Saint, the Sword Saint's movements seemed to slow down, only for him to instantly defeat all 4 members in a flash, stunning everyone. Screams erupted as Adele exclaimed he hadn't even seen the Sword Saint move, questioning if that was truly just 10% of his power. Ares then called Group 2, who were quickly defeated, followed by Group 3, making Kenna and Chris visibly anxious. When Group 4 was called, some members refused, unwilling to lose points from a certain defeat. Ares stared them down, offering them the option to skip the test, then asked if the remaining 2 would proceed. Their decision to go forward surprised Adele, leading him to believe this qualification was more significant than he'd initially thought, though he kept his suspicions to himself. Chris asked if skipping was truly an option, and Adele confirmed it was. The last 2 members of Group 4 now face Cell. Adele stated that 2 people couldn't possibly handle him, expressing a desire to observe longer. They were immediately overwhelmed by ranged aura attacks. Adele commented that if those had been real sword auras, they would have been cut in 2. Chris wondered if such a monster could truly be defeated, while Sanchez, despite visibly trembling, declared he wasn't afraid of a mere human. Adele chuckled. Groups 5 through 9 were quickly dispatched. Group 10 forfeited. The same happened from Group 20 up to Group 30. Adele noted that by Group 30, a total of 5 teams had forfeited, and not a single group had managed to land a meaningful strike on the Sword Saint. It was a battle against an unbeatable opponent, with no restrictions on leaving midway. However, there was a glimmer of hope as some managed to block an attack this time, surprising Chris. Adele observed that as they progressed, the fights lengthened, and the participants' skills improved compared to previous applicants. He now understood the true condition for passing the second test. Sanchez noted it would soon be their turn, and Chris admitted his fear. Adele revealed he'd figured out how to pass. The criterion was to get back up and fight until the end, even when facing overwhelming force. He was sure of it, judging by how the instructors handled quitters and the Sword Saint's immense strength. Sanchez began to speak, but Adele cut him off, only to be interrupted by Ares calling Group 33. Adele asserted they could defeat the Sword Saint with their power. Sanchez questioned his seriousness, but Chris and Kenna were both on board, stating that losing didn't matter. Adele emphasized that his half-demon status was irrelevant. With his talent, as the strongest villain, he could win. They got into formation. Adele stated it was time to begin. Unlike the main character, he lacked detailed information about Cell, as he hadn't specified much during his creation, leaving Adele wondering how to proceed. He urged them not to be nervous and to maintain their positions. Chris agreed, and Sanchez scoffed that he already knew that. The Sword Saint's aura began to swirl around his body. "He's coming," Adele yelled. Cell swung his sword upwards, shattering Chris's barrier, sending him flying. Sanchez managed to hold the line, and Adele instructed Kenna to protect Chris, which she confirmed, needing to lessen his fall's impact. Adele then told Sanchez it was his turn, and Sanchez yelled back that he knew. The next attack came. Sanchez took it head-on, enduring and fighting back. "This is good," Adele mused. He'd spotted a clear opening just before the second slash, but it seemed too obvious. His instinct screamed it was bait. He wondered if Cell had an AI. Adele announced the second attack was coming and ordered them to get back into position. Chris returned to the front, his cracked barrier signaling he was at his limit, while Sanchez's arms were also visibly cracking, all from a single hit. Adele urged them to hold on a little longer as Cell prepared his next move. It was more of the same. Chris was sent flying backward, and Sanchez, though he put his arms up to block, began losing his transformation as the attack intensified. "What are you waiting for? We're all going to die at this rate," Sanchez yelled. Adele insisted they needed to last just a bit longer, earning a "you're crazy" from Sanchez. Adele noted they were the only team to have blocked the second attack and wondered if Cell would repeat his pattern. Cell raised his blade toward them, then immediately pointed it at the ground, double-fisting it. The air began to change, and Adele realized something crucial. As Kenna tended to Chris on the ground, Adele walked over, asking Chris if he was okay. He admitted it was hard, but pleaded for one more act of trust. Chris looked pained. Sanchez, seeing Cell about to attack again, questioned Adele's actions. Chris also asked if Adele had a plan. "Of course," Adele replied with a villainous smile. "I'll drive a sword into his throat for sure." Kenna and Chris looked a bit intimidated. Cell began preparing for his third attack, aura swirling around him. "He's coming," Sanchez yelled, telling Chris to get back to the front. Adele informed Sanchez he'd have to endure this time without a barrier. Before Sanchez could ask what he meant, the attack came. Sanchez immediately lost his transformation, flying into the sky. Adele tethered himself to Sanchez, swapping positions, which put him directly above Cell. He then tethered himself to his own sword, swapping positions again and sending the sword high into the sky. Adele reared back his dagger. With Cell now weaponless, Adele declared this was his chance to kill him. As Adele moved in, Ares and Renee watched in surprise. However, Cell had actually impaled Adele straight in the chest. Just shy of stabbing Cell in the throat, Adele began spitting blood, gritting out, "I have to hold on one more time." He then activated his trait of darkness, which swirled around them, creating a small cocoon. He explained that without Chris's barrier, his insides would have burst. The position transfer failed, but at least he had Cell trapped in a pitch-black space with no trace of light. Even Adele could barely see, but he had the Fong of Darkness, which in this space was stronger than any weapon, and he vowed to defeat Cell with everything he had. To Adele's surprise, Cell moved his head slightly, immediately turned towards him, and dashed straight through the darkness. "This dude is a total monster," Adele exclaimed. Adele raised his hands, a smile spreading across his face, as if this had been part of his plan. The Fong of Darkness began to spin in the air directly behind Cell, but it wasn't alone. Multiple other attacks appeared. "This time, I'm the one who had been lured in," Adele declared, telling the sword, saying it was time for this to end. More fangs of darkness emerged from small rifts. Adele clenched his fist, activating Black Blade Rain, stabbing the sword saint all over with the fangs of darkness as his cocoon began to fade slightly. Chris and the others wondered what was happening inside. Ares stated that it was almost over. As the darkness faded away, Adele stepped forward, getting rid of his trait of darkness, revealing Cell as corpse lying face down on the ground. Everyone was surprised by this, and the room fell completely silent. Adele smiled, saying the silence meant he did good, and Bolton remarked that it looked fun. Chris and Kenna both ran towards Adele, exclaiming how amazing it was and asking how he did it. He attributed it to everyone working so well together and then asked about Sanchez. Kenna replied that Sanchez was a bit in shock, but the instructors were helping him recover. Adele expressed relief and then stated it was time they finished this. They asked what he meant, saying it was already over. Adele then stabbed Cell's body, causing his legs to twitch, prompting Chris to ask what he was doing. Adele says he needed to make sure Cell is really dead, while Ares watches intently. Fran laughs and remarks, "For a half-blood, he's not half bad." One of her simps sneers, Compared to you, he's nothing special. Fran laughs, replying, of course not. He was clearly born inferior. His true nature will show itself eventually. Just then, she notices Renee shooting her a death glare from the sidelines. Puzzled, Fran wonders what her problem is. She recognizes Renee's horns, definitely from the bear family, but can't figure out why she's glaring like that. It's low-key freaking her out. Some bystanders misread the tension, whispering that this kind of standoff is expected from heirs of the 7 deadly sins. They assume a battle of intimidation has already begun. Fran's top simp steps up confidently, declaring that the outcome is obvious. It'll be Fran. That other girl wouldn't even make a decent snack, he scoffs. Adele, watching from afar, notices Renee's overwhelming bloodlust and wonders what's going on. Ares approaches him, and when Adele looks up and asks what he wants, Ares responds cryptically, "Are you seriously saying that like you don't already know?" "I have no clue what you're talking about," Adele replies. Ares turns away, saying calmly, "I'm going to be watching you from now on." Adele blinks, thinking he was about to get a compliment, but instead ends up in the most awkward conversation of his life. Meanwhile, Fran and Renee are still locked stare down. Adele, now fully on Renee's side, wonders who the girl across from her even is. Based on her hairstyle and the way her horns sit uncovered on her forehead, he deduces she's from the House of Lust. Her name must be Laurel Fran. But he still doesn't get why she's picking a fight with Renee. He'd spent so much time obsessing over human world stories that he's clueless about demon world politics. Suddenly, Fran spots him in the crowd. Her eyes lock onto his, and she shouts his way. Adele flinches, caught off guard. "Become my slave," she yells boldly. Before he can react, Renee dashes forward and draws her blade in a flash. Fran, surprised, reaches for her weapon and yells, "Are you crazy?" Ares steps in, shouting, "Enough! Unprovoked fights in Sidan are forbidden. Settle your personal issues elsewhere." Adele sighs in relief that Ares de-escalated things before the entrance ceremony. Renee storms off, annoyed that she was interrupted, while Fran scoffs. She's clearly not all there. Adele approaches Renee, asking if she's okay and reminding her that her group is up next. Renee walks up to him and gently wipes the sweat off his face. "You did a good job," she says softly. Fran, watching them, narrows her eyes. What is their relationship? Fran squinted at the boy beside Renee, suspicion flickering in her eyes. Was she really dating a half-demon? Adele offered a sheepish smile, brushing a hand through his hair. "Ever since I passed, people have been treating me a lot better," he said, nodding in gratitude toward Renee. Renee didn't look convinced. She says, "You were holding back, weren't you? Playing weak." Before Adele could come up with a clever response, Group 34 was called over the loudspeaker. Renee turned to go. "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone," she said over her shoulder. Adele watched her retreating back and mumbled to himself, "I used every ounce of strength I had to pass. Did I really seem that weak?" He figured Renee still believed he was just a priest from the Bear family. Then, just as abruptly, Fran spun back around. Her voice rang across the field. "State your name." Adele blinked in confusion. "Are you talking to me?" She nodded once. "Yes, you." He gave her his name, and she tilted her head slightly in approval. "Not bad," she said. "Listen, I didn't get to finish earlier. Forget that bear skank and come serve me instead. I'll show you what true appeal looks like. I'll steal you away and flatten her nose while I'm at it." Adele stared at her blankly. "I'm good, thanks. I'm here to watch Renee. Maybe next time." Fran's confident facade cracked for just a moment. Why isn't this working? She thought in dismay. But Adele was already ignoring her, eyes fixed ahead. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. Would Renee finally reveal her true strength? Being a child of the 7 deadly sins meant expectations were sky high, and he was ready to see if she'd exceed them. On the field, Renee and Cell faced each other. Their eyes met, and the air between them seemed to spark with raw energy. The pressure was palpable. She's even more incredible than I imagined, Adele murmured. To everyone's surprise, even Diana's, Renee began to walk forward alone. Each step was slow, steady, filled with purpose. Bolton, watching from the sidelines, chuckled. She's got spirit. I like her. Adele couldn't believe what he was seeing. She's really walking straight up to the Sword Saint? What is she thinking? Renee came to a halt directly in front of Cell. The two warriors stood silently, auras clashing, staring one another down. For a brief moment, their energy dipped like the calm before a storm. Renee clenched her jaw. The air thickened. Cell moved first, his body coiling with deadly intent. But before his attack could land, Renee struck. With a single, perfect slash, she cut the Sword Saint cleanly in half. Adele stares, stunned. Renee turns and walks away. Behind her, Cell's lower half remains standing. He hasn't realized it yet. But he's already dead. The crowd erupts. Ares crosses his arms and says coolly, "Not bad." Adele rubs his eyes, still trying to process what just happened. No way. Did I see that right? Did she really win that easily? He figures Cell didn't even bother attacking her earlier because he had already sensed the gap in their power. Front scoffs. Shame. I wanted to see her humiliated by the Sword Saint. But if she expects to stand against me, I suppose she has to be that strong. Adele turns to her, thoughtful. Does this mean all the 7 deadly sins children could beat the real Sword Saint? Franz shakes her head. No one alive could do that. Maybe the previous Demon King, if they were still around. But if the children are already stronger than 10% of him, Adele argues, then they'll definitely surpass him one day. Franz glares at him. Are you mocking me? Anyone with eyes can see this replica isn't even close to 10% of the real deal. Adele sighs. Then that means even a fake gave us trouble, and he wasn't even 1/10 of the original strength. He muses that while he may have created this world, he still knows nothing about the true strength of the demonic realm. His heart races with anticipation. He can't wait to see how far this goes. Only the heirs of the 7 deadly sins remain. Perhaps because of Renee's stunning performance, the others also defeat the Sword Saint with ease. The fights are so one-sided that it's hard to even tell the differences in their strength. But Adele already knows who the 2 strongest are, Diana and Renee, so he isn't too worried. Suddenly, Ares raises his voice. This concludes the entrance exam. Everyone, gather in front of the podium. He announces the results. Everyone who participated in combat, win or lose, has passed. Adele smirks. Just like I figured. Ares continues, you all did well. From this point forward, you are official members of Saitan and trainees. But don't celebrate too early. The path ahead is brutal, and many of you will want to quit. Then Ares adds, those who defeated the Sword Saint, stay where you are. Renee frowns. Why do we have to stay? Adele guesses. Maybe it's about that armory he mentioned during the first exam. A reward. Ares confirms it. You passed with flying colors. As promised, you'll have the chance to enter the armory of Saitan. Bolton raises a hand. Can we take a lot of weapons? I mean, they'd all be super useful, right? Adele smiles to himself. As expected of Lion Bolton, the son of envy. That curiosity of his even earned him a decent arc in my novel. Ares answers bluntly, no. Carrying too many weapons will dilute your focus. You may choose only one. He glances at the rest. We're short on time, so no more questions. Follow me. He approaches a stone wall and channels mana into it. A hidden door begins to glow and open. This is your perk for passing, Ares says. Whether you make the best or worst choice, it's all up to you. As Adele watches the door creak open, he mutters, why does it look like the entrance to a dungeon? Ares explains, you'll enter one by one, in reverse order that of second exam. Also, you'll be inspected upon exiting. Just in case, Ares announced. Bolton grinned. So I'm first? Time to grab the best weapon. He laughed confidently as he strode toward the armory. Shut up and get in already, Ares muttered, scowling. Renee stepped forward. I'm going to choose an artifact. I already have a weapon, she said, then turned to Adele. What about you? I'll do the same, Adele replied, though doubt lingered in his mind. If I'm going last, will there be anything worth picking by the time I get in there? Moments later, Bolton strutted out of the armory, a crown gleaming on his head. This thing's pretty cool, he said with a wide grin. Adele sighed. Figures, everyone's picking artifacts. Maybe I should go for armor instead. It's your turn, Renee said, nudging him forward. He noticed a bracelet on her wrist. You picked a bracelet? What does it do? You'll see, she replied. Most items have descriptions. Most? He asked, raising a brow. She nodded. Yeah, some don't. Adele frowned. So they're useless? Doesn't seem like it, she said. They're still kept in perfect condition. There's probably something special about them. Just then, Ares called out, You're the last one. He looked down at Adele and added, If you've got something to say it now. Adele eyed his stern expression. You look like you'd rather I said nothing. But what does it mean if an artifact has no description? It means we haven't figured out what it is yet, Ares replied. So, no known abilities or past owners? Exactly. Could be a hidden treasure or a cursed piece of junk that ruins your life. Adele grimaced. No time left. Get moving. As Adele stepped into the chamber, he muttered, Guess I'll find out whether going last is a blessing or a curse. Inside, he was immediately struck by how bright and spotless it was. Well, that's unexpected. Just hope there's nothing in here waiting to jump scare me. Adele spotted a soft glow from a nearby archway. That must be it, and stepped inside, immediately surrounded by dozens of display cases. This is insane, he muttered, eyeing a spear with an engraved plaque. Twin Fong spear, once used to hunt serpents. Spirits reside within. Infuse with mana to summon serpent forms. Cool, he said, but I already have a dagger. Pass. Next, he examined a glowing orb, starlight crystal, imbued with starlight, emits celestial light when charged with mana. Neat, but I use dark magic. Maybe as a torch. Still pass. Then he noticed an empty pedestal labeled the Great Circuit of Victor. Grants stamina and recovery until death. So that's what Bolton took, greedy bastard, Adele muttered. Didn't think I'd run into a binding item here, even after I cut them from the novel. Scanning the rest, he sighed. Bind of the Python? Gone. Flag of the Demon General? Gone. 7 deadly sins took everything. What remained looked like scraps until his eyes landed on a battered sword. No choice left. If it's cursed, that's bad. Then it hit him. He pulled out his special scroll, hesitating briefly. He needed to save gold, but decided this was worth it. He whispered, Tell me about the broken sword in the armory, the one with no description. The scroll responded, Information requires payment. Standard rate. Suspicious. Adele tested it by pointing to a damaged scroll nearby. What about that one? The reply, Reduced price. So, the higher the cost, the better the item, he realized. Spotting 7 unmarked boxes, he asked about the first. Eagle emblem, 1 coin. Effect, exchanges the owner's good fortune with someone else's misfortune. Adele laughed aloud. Wow, that's a troll item. 100 gold. Then 50. Adele sighed. None of these sound great so far, and only 2 left. One artifact was priced at 300 gold. He whistled. Mythical grade, huh? Probably the best one here. I should just take it. But something tugged at his senses. Turning, he spotted a necklace tucked on a side pedestal. It almost felt like it was watching him. A chill ran down his spine. Huh, did I miss one? He muttered. This feeling is that the original Adele's instinct. Curious, he whispered to the scroll, Tell me about the unnamed necklace. The parchment flared with blinding light. What the? Why is it reacting like this? The pressure was intense, sweat beading on his brow. Do I have to offer a god for this one? His smirk returned. Legendary, huh? I might have gotten lucky after all. The scroll dimmed and dropped to the floor. Adele muttered, suddenly anxious. Offer a god? I don't even have a minor god contract, let alone the demon god. What is this thing? He tried infusing mana. Nothing. Ugh. Just says offer a god. No clue what it actually does. He asked again, which god is connected to the necklace in the basement? The scrolls reply, offer a god. Doesn't matter how I ask. He considered walking away, but something told him not to. I'm sure of it, he said, lifting the glass. This is way more valuable than it looks. To confirm, he opened his status. Artifact info showed only. Knew it, he grinned. Nobody else would have picked this. I'll take my time figuring it out. As he exited, Ares squinted at the necklace. What's that? Adele replied casually. One of the ones without a description. Ares frowned. You picked something you know nothing about? Yup. No clue. Ares studied him, then gave a slow nod. As a sight-in instructor, I'll trust you. But take care of that artifact. In the worst moments, it might be the only thing that keeps you alive. Adele watched the other cadets laughing, talking. They were all future demon lords in the making, backed by wealth and legacy. He sighed. Wish I had just a bit of that. Will I even survive this place? Ares dismissed them, reminding everyone about the entrance ceremony in 2 days. As Adele walked with Renee, she said, let's head back to the dorm. He nodded. Yeah. Then someone called out, Yo, Adele. It was Bolton, grinning wide. Hey, sorry if I was rude before. Adele turned. Oh, it's fine. Bolton approached and offered a handshake. The way you fought, I liked it. Name's Bolton. They shook hands. Nice to meet you, Adele said, though inwardly confused. Why is he being friendly now? Then, crack. Gah. Adele's eyes widened as Bolton's grip crushed his hand. What the hell is this guy doing? He forced a smile through the pain. Bolton didn't care about the weak. He was jealous or worse, hungry for a fight. In a novel, this man nearly dragged both demon and human worlds into ruin. He only spared people if he thought it'd lead to a better battle later. Bolton leaned in, voice calm. You're looking pale. Adele says it's nothing, but he thinks that there are people stronger than him nearby. This makes him wonder why Balthan would have come specifically for him. He tethered his mana to Bolton's sword, swapped places with it, and dropped it several feet away. Bolton blinked. Adele pulled back, cradling his hand. Yeah, let's stop here. The test's over. Everyone's tired. A brief silence followed before Bolton burst into laughter, eyes gleaming. Did not see that coming. You're fun. I want to fight now to the death. Adele stepped back. Hell no. I'm serious. I'm not. A voice cut through Bolton. Renee yelling from across the courtyard. Cut out already. Renee marched over, voice sharp. If you want to fight my guard, you'll have to go through me first. Bolton laughed. Tempting, but fighting both of you before school starts? Nah, I'll wait. He gave Adele a wave. Next time, yeah. Adele blinked, confused. Bolton had just said he didn't want to get hurt, but also wanted a death match. The guy was unhinged. He could tell Bolton was still eyeing him. He was likely trying to figure out when Adele had drawn his weapon. Renee turned and said, Let's go. Yes, Adele nodded, thinking it had only been 1 day, but it already felt like weeks. Still, he mused that life at the academy might not be so bad. Back at the dorm, Adele let out a long breath as he opened the window. Maybe it's everything that happened yesterday, but I feel good today. His body felt stronger, lighter. He was already growing. Spotting the new uniform, he was surprised. They delivered it to his room. That's surprisingly thoughtful. He slipped it on, impressed. Way more comfortable than he expected, which you will be stuck wearing this for 3 years. He picked up the second uniform, Renee's. Curious, he debated checking how it looked on her, then knocked the door. Who is it? Me, he said. Just wanted to see if you needed anything before I head out. Come in. He opened the door and froze. Sunlight streamed behind her as she stood there, blushing faintly in uniform. You're beautiful, he blurted. She looked away, ears red. Going somewhere. Cute, he thought. Yeah, it's my day off. Thought I'd walk the city. You should rest. I'll get going. Wait, she said, stepping forward. You still have something to do. Something I forgot? He wondered. She then stated, "Guard." Adele's expression shifted as he remembered his duty to guard her, a task he had completely forgotten in his excitement about resting alone. "I'll come too. Just give me a second to change." He stood there awkwardly until she asked, "How long are you going to stare?" "All right, I'll wait outside." He stepped out, nearly tearing up. "It's my day off. Why do I never get to rest?" Later, walking through the city, Adele glanced around. Hard to believe a war happened here just 10 years ago. It's so clear, so alive. Looking toward the outskirts, he added, "The outer zones still show damage, but the capital? Looks like the humans never managed to take it." Renee tugged at his sleeve. "I want to eat that." He followed her gaze, a street vendor grilling skewers. He inquired about the skewers, learning they were seasoned buck and veggies. After accepting two, he and Renee sat down. Adele took a bite, remarking on how good it was and asking for her opinion. Renee's eyes lit up as she enthusiastically declared, "This stuff is great." Adele almost choked. Someone like her making that face? Maybe she really is starting to open up. They wandered the city, stopping before a statue of a woman. Adele frowned. He admitted to not knowing who the statue depicted. "You don't recognize her?" Renee asked, revealing it was the first Demon King. He looked again. Now that you say it, she just kind of looked like Diana. He stepped closer, marveling at being able to see her face so closely. Suddenly, the statue's eyes glowed. That surprised Adele. His necklace pulsed with a blinding light as a green beam shot from the statue, surging directly into it. Adele stumbled back, heart pounding. "What the hell is happening?" he gasped, clutching the glowing necklace as the light faded, only to find one of the jewels had turned completely gray. Renee looked over. "Why are you just standing there staring at it?" Still dazed, Adele blinked. "I saw a light from the statue, and my necklace, it changed color." He studied her expression. Was she pretending not to see it? But she looked completely calm. So it was just him then. Back then, it only gave cryptic messages like "offer a god." But now, something tied to the first Demon King herself? A new determination lit in his eyes. If he followed the trail back to her, maybe he'd uncover the truth behind the necklace. Renee suggested they return, and Adele nodded in agreement. The next day, the grand auditorium buzzed with chatter as roughly 100 new students took their seats, the instructors and headmaster waiting at the front. Adele eyed the stage. So this was the entrance ceremony? Seemed normal enough. Students whispered, "Is the headmaster really that little girl?" "She looks like a kid." Adele rolled his eyes. "A kid? She nearly crushed us all with just her presence. And they're calling her cute? She's got tattoos and looks 10, he muttered. "What's wrong with my eyes? I did call her cute earlier." The headmaster's head snapped toward him with a glare. Adele froze. I meant adorable. Absolutely adorable." "'Cause she read minds?" Aries clapped his hands. Silence. The entrance ceremony is about to begin. The headmaster stepped forward and gave a brief, formal speech until her voice dropped, sharp and commanding. "You are now bound by the rules of Sidon." With that, she stepped down and Aries took her place. "Now we will proceed with the oath of the top cadet and runner-up," he announced. As expected, Diana and Bolton stepped forward. Adele wasn't surprised. Renee didn't seem fazed either. She was only here for one thing: revenge. Rankings didn't matter to her. But for him, he had to keep pushing forward, no matter what. A chill ran down his spine. He turned, and there was Bolton pointing again. "Why is this guy obsessed with me?" Adele looked away, pretending not to notice. "Not today, man." Diana took the stage, and every gaze fixed on her. Blessed by the gods, Adele thought. No one stopping her. Then Diana and Bolton spoke in perfect unison. "We will wipe away disgrace and rebuild the demonic realm." The air shifted, their words hitting hard. Pain and fury born from losing everything to humans. Adele clutched his cloak. "If anyone finds out I'm arson bloodline, I'm dead. Eternal torture." Aries stepped forward. "The ceremony is concluded. Check the bulletin board behind you for your class." Once confirmed, proceed to your rooms. Adele turned to Renee. Let's check it out. He spotted his name. Class A. All right. Then he glanced at Renee's card. You're in Class C? New. Too bad. Renee rolled her eyes. Wipe that dumb look off. You're still my guard. So when I call, you should come, as he stated. Adele nodded. Maybe now I can finally relax a bit. But as he turned, he bumped into someone hard. The guy stared at him like he'd insulted his entire bloodline. You want to die? Adele froze. That aura. Gluttony? That's Samuel, one of the 7 deadly sins. He groaned inwardly. Why are all the sins kids like this? Is it genetic? Wasn't paying attention. Sorry, he muttered. Samuel scoffed. TCH, get lost. You're lucky it's the first day. Adele rubbed his forehead. Why does trouble find me like this? Elsewhere, a woman instructor folded her arms. You don't believe me? Aries answered coolly. It's not about belief. She huffed. I am an instructor too, you know. You're too soft for someone like him. Aries replied. I've dealt with people like him. He's dangerous. Let me handle it. The woman glared. I already have students assigned. I'm Class A's instructor. You can't just waltz in and override me. Before things escalated, Lucian stepped in. Enough. Sit down, Ada. Why is it always me? Ada muttered, dragging herself into her seat with a theatrical sigh as Lucian turned to Aries. Then tell me, why do you want to switch classes? Aries didn't even hesitate. I intend to handle Adele personally, he said flatly. He has the eyes of a killer. If provoked, he could easily turn his blade on allies without a second thought. Someone like him must be restrained before that happens. A few instructors chuckled under their breath. He's just a half-demon, one scoffed. He's not even close to the level of the 7 sins kids. But Aries' gaze hardened. Strength isn't about raw power. It's about composure. Audacity. He moves like someone born for chaos and stays calm inside it. That's what makes him dangerous. The room fell quiet. Even the skeptics knew he wasn't speaking lightly. This is why I'm requesting to oversee Class A myself, he added. Ada stood up sharply. So, what you mean, you don't trust me? Aries quickly replied that's not what he meant and apologized if he made her feel bad. Lucian groaned, rubbing his temples. Enough. No reshuffling the roster. We keep things as they are. Adele stays in Class A. Aries bowed slightly. Understood. Lucian turned to Aries. Still, watch him closely. Aries sighed. I got it. Then go, Lucian said. Your students are waiting. Later that day, Adele slumped in the back of the classroom. Why is it always me? Fron burst into laughter beside him. What's with that face? At least Bolton and Diana aren't here, he muttered. But Samuel is, she added helpfully, nodding toward the glowering figure in the corner. Adele's face twisted in despair, realizing the inevitable. Of course he is. Fron playfully teased. Don't tell me you followed me here. Adele stiffly replied that the assignments were random. Perfect, she chirped. Now you can be my slave. He groaned. She's already starting. Can you two shut up before I kill you? Samuel growled without even looking at them. Fran's glare flared as she retorted. Who the hell do you think you're talking to? Adele attempted to mediate with a weak smile. Let's all do our best. A single tear slid down his cheek, lamenting, first day, and I'm already crying. Suddenly, the door slammed open with a loud bang. A scarred woman in a fluttering cloak strode in, unimpressed. You're all too damn loud, she said. No way you're already fighting. Adele blinked. Wait, that's Ada? He wondered. She then clapped her hands, commanding attention. Listen up. I'm your instructor. Name's Ada. Some call me the Legion of Calamity. The room fell into stunned silence, broken by gasps as students recognized the moniker. She's the one who wiped out 10,000 humans at Pollock River, someone whispered in awe. I heard it was 30,000. Adele stiffened, realizing they were being taught by a living legend. He thought that perhaps he had a shot at surviving after all. Ada grinned. I'll be teaching you how to hunt. A hand shot up, asking, You mean like demonic beasts? Nope. She smirked. Humans. Adele sat up straight, his focus sharpened, acknowledging the quick escalation. But don't get it twisted, she continued. I'm just covering the methods. Magic and weapons are someone else's job. I also handle stamina training. Adele groaned, recognizing it as his one weakness. Fran leaned over, commenting, for a war legend, she's got a pretty cute face. Ada then instructed, no more talk. Move to the training grounds. Class starts now. The field was massive, easily 4, maybe 5 times the size of a standard arena. Adele's eyes swept across the space, wondering what they would be doing, whether it was swordplay or magic. Ada stood at the center of the clearing. Everyone here? Good. Focus, and keep your eyes on this. She extended her hand, and the air twisted. Mana surged, dark and dense. A rift split open in front of her, and from it, figures emerged. 1, then 3, then dozens. Adele's body tensed. What the hell is that? Ada's voice was calm. Don't panic. These aren't real humans. But they looked real, down to the shine on their weapons and the fury in their eyes. They're just illusions, Adele muttered, recalling the sword saint from the exam. But his eyes locked onto Ada. She created the sword saint. Of course she did. He swallowed hard, thinking she's a monster. This academy is far more dangerous than I realized. Ada's voice rang out again, clear as crystal. The task is simple. Get through the human formation. Reach me. Her eyes swept over the class, then locked onto Adele. Why don't you try stabbing me in the throat like you did the sword saint? A beat passed. Adele stared at her, caught between confusion and disbelief. She's smiling. Is she a freak too? It wasn't just Ares anymore. Now Ada had noticed him as well. Am I sparring with her directly? As if reading his thoughts, Ada continued. Among these humans is their instructor, the source of their discipline and morale. Take down the leader, and the rest will collapse like dominoes. Her smirk deepened. I'll play the leader. Adele's eyes narrowed. I see. Sun Tzu's art of war. Defeat the enemy by capturing their chief. He cracked his knuckles, confidence flaring. Should be easy for someone like me. Adele's gaze sharpened with something colder. Ada then reminded him, of course, you won't be defeating me. If you can so much as touch me with your weapon, or even lay a finger on me, I'll count it as a pass. Around her, the illusions surged up like a tide, shields locking, blades raised, forming a tight phalanx. Begin. Without hesitation, Adele activated position transfer. In an instant, he vanished from view. Then in the blink of an eye, he was behind Yada. Dagger pressed to her throat. She didn't flinch, but her eyes widened just slightly, betraying a flicker of surprise. Adele leaned in, voice a whisper. Does this count as a pass? His blade touched her skin, then stopped. A radiant shimmer pulsed between steel and skin, halting the edge in place. A barrier. Ares looked down and laughed. Now I get it, she murmured. This is why Ares warned me about you. She gently pushed the blade away and smiled. You pass. Return to your spot. Adele nodded and stepped back, but his mind raced. Curiosity? Hostility? What exactly about me is setting them off like this? He glanced at her from the corner of his eye. They can't know the truth, can they? Ada turned back to the class, voice bright and dangerous. Now that you've seen Adele, let's raise the stakes. Anyone who fails will be taking additional classes. A collective groan rose as the students surged forward. Die, humans! One shouted, charging the illusions with reckless abandon. Adele watched from the sideline. They've got good instincts, as expected from demons. But instincts weren't enough. Spears shot forward, illusions overwhelming, and within moments, half the class was down. Some cadets tried leaping over the formation, only to be shot mid-air by phantom archers, and was immediately skewered before hitting the ground. Adele sighed, blinking. Position transfer really is overpowered. If I play this right, I might just top the class. Next, Ada called, and Samuel stepped forward, his shadow falling across Adele. Move, Samuel growled. Adele, leaning back lazily, wondering whether his cockiness matches his skill or not. Samuel walking to the front and addressing Ada directly. "I'll begin now." Adele's body tensed the moment the wind shifted. Dust spiraled up from the ground, the air thickened, and energy crackled beneath Samuel's feet. Then the explosion came. A towering emerald tornado ripped across the field, and hurling illusionary soldiers like leaves in a storm. In a matter of seconds, the entire illusion army was gone, obliterated by a single attack. Adele shielded his eyes, his jaw tight, thinking magic is insane. That has to be his unique ability. He watched the destruction with a mix of awe and calculation, noting it chews through everything. A small smirk touched his lips as he conceded, "Fine. I'll let him take the top spot for now." Ada simply brushed the wind from her coat like it was a passing breeze, looking more entertained than impressed. "Wow," she said. "What's up with this batch?" But her tone was more amused than serious. Samuel stepped back, silent. He seemed to expect the pass, but Ada raised her hand and snapped her fingers. The entire battlefield shimmered. 200 illusions instantly reappeared, fully armed and ready. Samuel's face froze as Ares coolly stated, "You failed." Samuel's fists clenched, and he uttered a disbelieving, "What? You didn't take down the leader." She gestured to herself, voice even. "Until I fall, the humans will always return. That's how war works." Samuel stood in silence as Ares's gaze lingered on him. "Still," she added lightly, "that magic of yours is impressive for a first year." He hadn't expected to fail, not like this. Adele didn't miss a beat. Samuel turned and walked back to his place in silence. Adele glanced over and noted the look on his face. He's furious, but he's handling it well, Adele thought, watching Samuel stew in silence. That's a face full of discontent, but no tantrum. Impressive. A loud, dramatic laugh suddenly cut through the air. "Well, have you all waited long enough? Now it's finally my turn." Franz strutted forward, hands on her hips like she was about to deliver divine judgment. A couple students whispered to each other, curious. "How's she going to do it?" Adele didn't have to wonder. Franz raised her voice and began ordering the illusionary humans in front of her. "You dare block my path. Know your place." She let out another grandiose laugh as the rest of the class stared in confusion. But she wasn't commanding anyone at all. She kept laughing and sweating. A bead of sweat rolled down her temple. She's panicking, Adele realized. As expected, she doesn't fight directly. She commands her minions like a queen bee. But without them, she's helpless. Her confidence collapsed. Franz's lips quivered, her eyes darting nervously. I need to do something." Her gaze locked on Adele, and her eyes lit up with inspiration. A moment later, she turned toward him and burst into tears, calling him a slave. Everyone went silent. "Did she just call him a slave?" someone whispered. Adele became annoyed, questioning what Franz could possibly be thinking by saying something so outrageous. Meanwhile, Franz wailed and demanding immediate help. Before Adele could react, Iada calmly pointed her finger, and the illusionary humans surged forward. Franz screamed as they began to mercilessly beat her. Adele stood blinking, wondering if Franz was unable to cast buffs on herself, as that shouldn't be the case. He considered that there might be some specific reason for it. Franz's cries turned shrill, pleading for help. Adele's eyes flicked to the side, where he spotted a student casting a healing spell on someone's injured leg, completely restoring the knee. He recognized it as healing magic, a rare ability, especially among demons. His eyes locked onto the girl responsible, realizing she must be a half-demon with a healing affinity and in the same class as him. He stared, his thoughts racing, unable to recall her name, but determining he needed to find a way to connect with her. Suddenly, Ada called and asked Adele to help Franz. "Would you be so kind as to help her walk now that the test's over?" He sighed, responding, "Understood. I'll be on my way. He strolled over and stood in front of Fran's crumpled form, then reached down and lightly poked her forehead. Useless, he muttered. Ow, she yelped. Get up already. It's over. She sat up slowly, trembling. Why, you saw it all, didn't you? Saw what? Don't act clueless, she shouted, her face red. Calling you my slave? How humiliating. I saw you looking weaker than a slave, he replied flatly. You're mocking me, aren't you? Before she could hurl another insult, Ada clapped her hands, signaling the end. All right, everyone, clean up and gather around. Ada addressed the exhausted cadets, stating, I had expectations, and the results were about what I expected. She acknowledged their effort for a first lesson, emphasizing that experience was more crucial than victory. She highlighted the importance of understanding individual strengths, weaknesses, and limits to foster mutual support and cohesion within the group, forming a cohesive unit. Adele thoughtfully nodded, contrasting this approach with the Human Empire's Academy, where students were strictly divided by ability, noting that here, synergy seemed to be prioritized. He recognized Ada's attempt to emphasize teamwork and cohesion. Ada's voice rose again, announcing, In the end, only one of you passed. Her eyes turned to Adele and says that she will be looking forward to Adele's progress. He blinked and responded, Understood. I'll work hard to learn everything I can. She offered a faint smile and instructed them to return to the classrooms for the next class. Adele wondered if Ada's words were praise. Then why did it sound so hostile? He then seized Samuel, and it seemed to have made him even angrier. Fran was still trailing after him, muttering about slaves, leaving Adele to doubt his ability to build his own faction. Back in the classroom, the theoretical education instructor introduced himself and began lecturing. The students learned about the history of the demonic realm, its social structure, and, most importantly, the weaknesses of humans. Adele sat, half listening and half taking notes. When the instructor began explaining human and demon body structures, a thought crossing his mind about demonic vulnerabilities. The lecturer concluded and announced a quiz on the day's material for the next session, warning them to remember everything if they wished to avoid remedial lessons. Adele closed his book with a dull thud and let his head fall against the desk. Is this for real? He mumbled into the wood. It was just like his old school days all over again. He sighed heavily. It's only my first day, and I already feel defeated. Around him, the other students laughed, chatted, and mingled with ease. Their voices filled the room with light energy, contrasting sharply with the heavy gloom hanging over Adele's head. No friends, just like back then, a single tear trailing down his cheek like a dramatic stage actor. Cursed to be forever alone. But then he spotted her, the healer girl from earlier. She stood near the window, talking to no one, simply enjoying the breeze. Adele sat up, eyes narrowing. This might be my chance. With as much confidence as he could fake, he approached. Hey, he called, voice just a bit too loud. A few heads turned. Curious gazes followed him. He felt the pressure. I'm Adele. It's nice to meet you. The healer girl blinked. Nice to meet you too. The room buzzed with whispers. Adele forced a chuckle. Guess when two half-demons talk, it draws attention. Her smile faded slightly. She looked uncomfortable. Too forward, Adele realized. I'll save the rest of the conversation for next time, he said quickly, stepping back. She nodded politely. Goodbye. He turned around and sighed, dragging his feet. Well, that could have gone better. Maybe I'll just head to the restroom, he muttered. Feed my loneliness. That little poison dragon. He pushed the restroom door open and came face to face with Samuel. Adele froze. This is terrible timing. Samuel's eyes narrowed. What do you want? Adele raised his hands innocently. I was just about to leave. I'll go after you. Samuel scowled. You're nauseating, you low-class creature. Adele stopped. That again. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. Your family must be amazing, he said coolly. Samuel's brows twitched. What did you just say? To have produced garbage that can walk and talk like you. They must be something special. Samuel's whole body tensed. His fists clenched. His aura exploded outward in a dark wave of fury. "I'll tear you to pieces," he growled. Adele didn't flinch. Unlike Bolton, this one's not just arrogant. He's got pure hatred behind him. Real hostility. Adele's fingers brushed against the hilt of his dagger. "If he's going to get in the way of my plans, it might be better to deal with him now." A storm brewing between them, until a voice sliced through the air like a whip. "That's enough." They both stopped. Standing in the doorway was the lecturer for their next class, arms folded, his expression unreadable. "We're starting class," he said flatly. "Take your seats." "That's not a suggestion." Adele and Samuel blinked in unison. When did he get there? Neither had noticed his presence until now. But the sudden appearance of the mysterious man, without warning or trace, surprised not only Samuel, but Adele as well. Adele couldn't help but wonder, who was this instructor, and how could he wield such power so effortlessly? The man finally addressed the class. His voice was calm but firm as he introduced himself as their new magic instructor, Robolt. Adele was taken aback. If this man was truly an instructor at Sidon, he had to be extremely skilled. That was reassuring. Adele began to reflect on the nature of magic. In the novel world he knew, magic wasn't treated as a talent or an innate trait. It was seen more like a developed skill or a field of study. Robolt confirmed this by introducing the concept of attributes. Magic, he explained, was rooted in 4 core elements: earth, water, wind, and fire. When light and darkness were added, they formed the 6 basic attributes. Most people were born with only one. Adele considered this carefully. The bear's family clearly had the darkness attribute, but I am not sure about Arson family. Perhaps they had 2 attributes. Robolt then stepped forward and revealed a glowing orb. He explained that each cadet would place their hand on it to discover their attribute, which would be revealed through a change in color. The students lined up one by one and began the process. Attributes were revealed: fire, wind, earth. Everything seemed routine. Then roll called Adele's name. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the orb. It flashed with 2 distinct colors, black on one side, gray on the other. A rare combination. Robolt stared in surprise. "Black indicates darkness, commonly seen in high-ranking demons," he said. "But gray, that's extremely rare. It represents chaos, magic that defies the natural order." Even Adele was shocked. Chaos magic hadn't existed in his novel. This was something new, something that could change everything. For now, he decided to focus on the darkness attribute since it was familiar. But the thought of chaos lingered in his mind. Without warning, Fran appeared behind him using stealth. Adele noticed immediately. "What are you doing?" he asked, clearly not surprised. Fran looked taken aback that he had detected her, but Adele wasn't interested in her stealth. Fran said that wasn't the real issue. He was more concerned about Adele provoking Samuel. "I couldn't stand being picked on," Adele replied with a casual shrug. "You shouldn't mess with Samuel's family," Fran warned. "They can't interfere with anything inside Sidon," Adele replied casually. "That's not the point," she said. She hesitated, as if about to say something more about Samuel's family, but stopped herself. Instead, she simply told him to be careful and walked away. Adele watched her go, wondering what she had been trying to say. The final class of the day arrived. The swordsmanship instructor, Ares, stormed in with a loud and angry voice. He immediately called the cadets weaklings and reminded them that under normal circumstances, they wouldn't even be allowed in the class. He mocked their poor performance in the puppet battle. Even at just 5% power, the puppet wiped out nearly every group except the top 8, he said. Ares then introduced himself as their swordsmanship instructor. His lesson was harsh. "The foundation of swordsmanship is physical strength," he declared before ordering them to run. The cadets sprinted across the field, gasping for air. Adele struggled. This was torture. Some cadets tried to use mana to make running easier, but Ares caught them immediately. "No shortcuts," he shouted. "Start over." It was always the rich kids looking for shortcuts. He thought back to his past, how he had once fought off knights after taking over a new body and escaping to the demon world. That had been true chaos. Eventually, Ares ended the class. Those who had completed all 50 laps were dismissed to the dorms. The rest were told to stay for extra training. Exhausted and aching, Adele made his way toward the dorms. As he approached the boys' dormitory, he was surprised as a hand touched his shoulder from behind. He turned, surprised to see Renee standing there. What's she doing here? He wondered, eyes narrowing slightly in thought. "Renee," he said, her name leaving his lips with casual familiarity, asking if she was heading to the dorms. She nodded, and he followed up by asking how her first day had gone. Her expression was tense. To an outsider, it might have seemed like she was upset about a classmate, but Adele could tell that wasn't it. Her concern was simpler. There hadn't been enough training. Without waiting for his answer, she looked at him and asked, "You'll help me with my cool-down exercises, right?" Adele could only sigh. Renee never seemed to run out of energy. Without wasting a moment, she mentioned a nearby training ground for cadets and urged him to come along while there was still time. Understanding that even if it would be tough, training alongside a child of the 7 deadly sins would be beneficial, Adele agreed. The facility was large and well-equipped, buzzing with activity. Dozens of students were hard at work, pushing themselves on various machines. It was clear that the space was designed to build physical strength and endurance. Renee made her way straight to one of the machines. "Adele, shall we start with this?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Adele says you want to try it first, but Renee says that it looked heavy. "Don't worry," Adele replied with a reassuring smile. "I've been training for years. This is nothing." He groaned, straining against the weight. "You're too weak," Renee said bluntly. "Stop before you hurt yourself." The comment stung, but it wasn't wrong. Adele realized just how limited his body really was. He lacked even the most basic strength. She then demonstrated effortless handling of equipment with practiced ease. He watched Renee continue without so much as breaking a sweat. Her power was undeniable, and he couldn't help but feel impressed. Compared to her, he had a long way to go. "I really need to work hard," he thought. 2 full hours passed before they finally wrapped up the training. Adele suggested they wrap up, and Renee agreed. While she changed her clothes, he took a moment to check his status. His race was still listed as half-demon, and his alignment remained chaotic. His talent position had transferred successfully, and his traits, an eye of superbia, were all unchanged. The only difference was his mana, which had increased slightly from 1,297 to 1,321, a mere 24-point gain despite his daily practice. He sighed. At this stage, growth is at its slowest. Maybe need to find an elixir. Renee finished changing and glanced over. "What are you doing?" Snapping out of his thoughts, Adele quickly replied, Yes, let's go." She wished him a good rest, and he returned the sentiment. Once alone, Adele let out a deep breath. "I'm seriously about to collapse," he muttered, dragging his exhausted body toward the dorms. Following the directions from his acceptance letter, he climbed the stairs to room 407. Standing in front of the door, he paused, wondering who his roommate might be. Hopefully someone skilled, with a decent personality, he thought. If needed, maybe we could become allies. He opened the door and froze. "What the hell are you doing here?" he exclaimed. Of all people, it had to be him. "Damn it. Just my luck." The other student sneered. "Oomph. Filthy half-breed." Adele clenched his fists. Should I wipe him out right now? But he forced himself to calm down. "Are you out of your mind? We'll get into trouble if we fight here." Instead, he spoke coldly. "I'm just going out for a bit. I hope you have a quiet rest." Without waiting for a reply, he turned on his heel and stormed off. Just when I thought I could finally relax, he muttered, "This jerk turns out to be my roommate." He wandered through the quiet grounds, hoping the other student would be asleep by the time he returned. His mind kept circling back to the encounter. Why is a guy who's not even a Wrath descendant so full of anger? Then he remembered. Samuel had been a descendant of gluttony. Maybe it's like how my disposition is chaos, he mused. Before Instructor Robolt brought it up, Adele hadn't given it much thought. But now he was starting to wonder, what does chaos even mean? Is it a type of mana attribute? Should I ask the information paper? But if it had known, it likely would have explained it during his inscription training. No point in wasting more money again. Still, the uncertainty gnawed at him. Not knowing everything, it was frustrating. He sighed. For now, all Adele needed was a quiet place to train his mana techniques in peace. As he wandered, his eyes caught movement. A small creature fluttering nearby. A sparrow? No, not quite. But still, there were birds here. That surprised him. There are actually wild animals roaming around Saitan. It felt unexpectedly peaceful. Almost out of place. That's kind of cute. Later that night, Adele returned to the dorm. Thankfully, his roommate was already asleep. He was completely drained, so exhausted that he felt like he'd pass out the moment he touched the bed. Still, even in that heavy haze of fatigue, a thought tugged at his mind. I should do a little mana training before bed. But his body gave in before his will could act. He fell into a deep sleep without realizing it, the room falling into a heavy silence. And then, without a sound, a shadow moved. Samuel stood over him, expression twisted with frustration and bitter resentment. He stared down at the sleeping half-demon, jaw tight. Even when he's sleeping, his face looks dumb and annoying, he muttered under his breath. And he even insulted my family. He knew, somewhere deep down, that he might have been in the wrong. But his pride refused to bend. Apologizing first? Samuel sighed and raked a hand through his hair. I've got too much on my plate. Why do I even have to waste energy thinking about someone like him? And yet, his thoughts wouldn't let go. His mind flashed back to the classroom, to the moment Adele had released that surge of energy. Without warning, Samuel's chest tightened sharply. That pain, I've felt it before. Why is it happening again? Suddenly, his stomach twisted violently. Gluttony was acting up again. He doubled over, clutching his abdomen. Damn it, I'm starving. Uncontrollably starving. My inside, they feel like they're drying up. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he cast a bitter glance at Adele's still, sleeping form. And I have to look at that smug face till morning, he hissed. I really want to punch him. Even in his sleep, Adele murmured. Adele offered a half-hearted prayer to the demon god. As morning light began to seep through the window, Adele stirred. Blinking against the brightness, he slowly opened his eyes and noticed something. Perched near his bed was a familiar bird, the same one from the night before. Adele mumbled to himself, curious. That bird again, first thing in the morning. How did it even get in here? He narrowed his eyes. Saitan is supposed to be sealed off from outside intrusions. This doesn't make any sense. His expression grew serious. It must be here to spy on me. Could be Instructor Ares? He scanned the bird's mana aura and confirmed. It was real, not an illusion. Well, maybe I can tame it with some food. Playfully, he whistled. Come here, little guy. Let's make a deal. Suddenly, Adele looked around and noticed that Samuel was gone. He must have already gone to breakfast, he thought. I should hurry, or I'll miss it. But then he paused, realizing that he didn't even know the way to the dining hall. In homeroom, the students gathered as Instructor Ada entered with his usual calm expression. Adele sat dejectedly, wondering how he got lost looking for the dining hall and ended up missing breakfast. He was worried if he would be able to focus in class or not. Today, we'll be choosing a class president, Ada announced. Adele blinked, surprised. A class president? Just like that? One student raised his hand. How will the class president be chosen? Ada said, originally, I planned to hold a vote. But I've changed my mind. I'll be appointing the president myself. Franz smirked. You made the right call, Instructor. Adele mused that it would be Fran, just like in the novel. He also thought that, with Samuel's personality, he probably couldn't be chosen. Fran stood up and spread her arms dramatically. "Let's lead the class together from now on," she declared. "Everyone, follow me. Treat me like your queen." Some classmates chuckled. "Fran's charismatic and has great support skills, even if she's not the sharpest," one whispered. Another nodded. "Honestly, Fran might be the best choice." A third grumbled, "What about Adele? He seemed capable." A fourth scoffed, "Seriously? A half-demon as class rep? Not happening." Someone else whispered, "Samuel's powerful, but he's kinda scary." Just as everyone was assuming Fran would be the obvious pick, Instructor Ada dropped the twist. Calmly, he said, "The class representative is not Cadet Fran." Fran froze in disbelief. Ada announced Class A's president is Adele. The classroom erupted in confusion. That's absurd." A student whispered, "She's making a half-demon class rep? What's going on?" Adele awkwardly raised his hand, trying to accept the unexpected announcement. Without missing a beat, Instructor Ada continued, "To prepare for the midterm exam, we will now shift focus to practical training." A student reacted immediately. "Practicals?" "Yes," Ada confirmed. "You'll work in teams of 3. Form your groups by the end of the day." Adele tensed up, thinking to himself, practical training at Saidan means killing. That's how they prepare us. As homeroom ended, Instructor Ada gave one last jab, addressing Front at the front of the room. "Also, if you talk casually to me again, I'll be giving you private lessons." Front flinched and yelped in frustration as Ada walked out. Students scrambled to form teams, while some stayed quiet, processing everything. Elsewhere in the academy, Instructor Aries stormed angrily into a private room where Instructor Ada was already waiting. "What were you thinking? Why did you appoint him as class rep?" Aries demanded. Ada leaned back with a faint smile. "Wow, haven't seen that serious face in a while." Aries growled, "This isn't a game. You just gave a half-demon authority over Class 8. Ada responded calmly, "I know what I did. It's temporary, but yes, I'm putting him in charge." Aries warned fiercely, "Then you're out of your mind. It's not too late." The representative needed to change now before things spiraled out of control. Tensions were rising, and Adele was suddenly in the spotlight, whether he wanted it or not. The two locked eyes clearly at odds. Ada, looking resolute, declared, "I don't want to." Aries was stunned. "This is driving me crazy," he muttered in frustration. But Ada remained firm. "I like that kid. His skills are top tier, and he's not arrogant like the descendants of the Seven Sins. Since he's backed by the Bears family, his identity is guaranteed." Aries, however, didn't budge. Just because someone's identity is verified doesn't mean they can be trusted. There's nothing more dangerous than a blind blade. Ada sighed. "I'll handle everything myself, so you stay out of it. I may be a new instructor, but I'm confident in my eye for talent." Aries clenched his fists. "Instructor Ada? Damn it. I should have been the one to take that class, no matter what. I shouldn't have left someone that dangerous to Ada." His mind flashed back to a painful memory of a half-demon who left an unforgettable scar on him in a past battle. For some reason, the vibe was eerily similar to Adele's. The chances that he was a blood relative of that demon were slim, but Aries couldn't just overlook it. They still didn't know exactly what Adele wanted. Suddenly, Aries whistled. A small sparrow swooped down and screeched. "So far, he hasn't done anything suspicious," Aries said quietly to the bird. "Keep watching him." The sparrow flew off, and Aries muttered under his breath, "I can't take my eyes off him for even a moment." Cut to the classroom, where students bustled around, excitedly forming teams. Everyone was busy during break time, forming their teams. Still, Adele thought, "I'm a class president, and not a single person has asked me to join. Was it because I look shady or something?" Just then, a student turned to Samuel. "Do you want to team up with me?" Samuel shrugged. "I don't really mind, as long as you don't hold me back." Adele watched the students around him with growing irritation. Even a guy like Samuel had already paired up. So why wasn't anyone coming to him? He sighed, resigned. "Guess I have no choice but to approach someone myself." Across the room, A pink-haired girl nervously fidgeted with her fingers. As expected, she thought, no one's going to approach a half-demon like me first. She glanced around anxiously. I need to form a team before class ends. I'll just have to grab someone. Suddenly, Adele appeared right in front of her. Hello there, he said. She lifted her head and immediately gasped, eyes widening as a dark aura swirled around him and his red eyes glowed intensely. Adele froze for a moment, realizing he might have startled her. I was just scanning her mana, he thought calmly. She wasn't someone to overlook. She had a decent amount of mana, and her healing ability was solid. She's perfect as a teammate. Softening his tone, he said, we met briefly before. My name is Adele. Have you found a team yet? The girl stammered, no, not yet. That's great, Adele smiled. What's your name? She hesitated for a moment before whispering, Luna. That's a lovely name, he said kindly. How about joining my team? It'll be helpful since I'm the class president. Luna fidgeted, clearly flustered. Adele leaned in slightly, his face inches from hers, his presence overwhelming. Luna trembled. There's not much time until class ends, he pressed. We're both half-demons, so we'd probably work well together. Luna flinched but nodded shakily. I will join you. Adele smirked. That's an excellent choice. Suddenly, a voice cut through their moment. What's so excellent? Franz sneered, sneaking up behind them with her usual smugness. Adele was caught off guard. What did she even show up? Franz grinned. Come now. Looks like you two haven't formed a group yet. I'll take both of you under me. We just finished forming a group, Adele replied bluntly. So you can go. Franz pouted dramatically. Don't be ridiculous. I heard everything from back there. Luna stood silently, awkward and unsure. Why are they doing this here? Franz stepped forward proudly. I still can't recognize your authority as class president. I am the true leader of this class. Adele considered his options. Should I just refuse her? Franz's glare was sharp. Why aren't you answering? Adele thought carefully. Franz showed no signs of backing down, so he made a decision. Fine, he thought. I will include her, but with conditions. He agreed to let Franz join, but only if she was the team leader in name and had to consult him before making any decisions. After all, she was a descendant of the 7 deadly sins. Better to keep her close than let her roam free. Franz beamed. Just trust and follow me, your team leader. It was a plan to stroke Franz's pride while still keeping control and using her to some extent. A week passed. Now Adele sat alone, sighing. I seriously need to get an elixir or something. Mana was a constant problem, but what frustrated him most was his inability to grasp the chaos attribute at all. Maybe I will get some hints in this week's magic class. He shivered. On top of everything, Kitesworm poison was becoming unstable, so he'd probably have to keep the ant at all times. Now there were so many things to worry about. At least Samuel was quiet. That was a relief. Well, things would improve gradually. Instructor Ada walked in with a big smile. Good morning. Adele raised an eyebrow. The instructor looked excited. Did something good happen? Ada beamed. Today's class will be a bit special. We're going to have a field training session. Adele straightened. Finally, our first field class. But Ada continued. We're leaving Saitan and heading out beyond. Adele's eyes widened. The location was Oregon. Oregon, he explained silently. It's the prison that housed humans who failed to return during the Human-Demon War. They're taking us to a POW camp. Ada gathered the students. We'll be taking the dimensional train, so everyone follow me. A couple of students chattered excitedly. Wow, I'm excited to see what kind of place it is. It's not even a vacation, but we get to go outside. Adele watched them carefully. Everyone was excited about going outdoors, but if they knew what kind of place Oregon really was, they'd be shocked. There was something more important than the training itself, though. His eyes sharpened. Soon, the main characters would discover a special opportunity there. If I go this time, I might be able to get it before them. The guards probably wouldn't be weak either. Suddenly, Franz put a hand on his shoulder. Why do you look so stiff? Adele glanced at her. I must be nervous since it's my first field class. So you do get nervous with your gloomy looks. I didn't think you could. She threw her arm around him. You have me, your team leader. Don't worry, just follow me. Adele sighed inwardly. Does this girl never get tired? Let's see if she's still this energetic once we get to Oregon. Still, thanks to Fran, he calmed down a bit. This was a rare opportunity. No matter what, he would seize it. The voice echoed across the transport, announcing their arrival. As Adele stepped into the camp, his instincts went on high alert. This was the prisoner of war camp called Oregon. The atmosphere was thick, almost suffocating. Behind him, two students whispered nervously, questioning if this terrifying place was really where they'd be doing their field training. Ada reassured them with unsettling calm. Yes, this is the designated training area. There won't be any combat, so there's no need to worry. Adele gave a dry smile, amused by the irony. They say that like something awful isn't obviously about to happen. What a twisted sense of humor. Their approach was stopped by a formidable guard. His mere presence was enough to cause unease. Have you come from Saitan? Ada replied swiftly, providing verification. Adele studied the man silently. The guard had to be as strong as an instructor. The pressure coming from him was no joke. Verification confirmed. Please follow me, the guard said. The group continued marching forward, but suddenly, eerie cries echoed through the walls. The agonized voices sent chills down their spines. Fran muttered in disbelief, "What kind of place is this?" One student sniffed the air suspiciously. "Don't you smell something strange?" Another added, "I feel like something's going to jump out at us." Adele could see it clearly now. The students were starting to unravel. Then Samuel's voice rang out, sharp and cold. "Don't walk slowly in front of me. Keep moving." Adele observed him closely. Samuel didn't seem disturbed in the slightest. He's a strange one, that guy. Just then, a blinding light shone down on them. Ada turned to the group and made the true announcement. "We've finally arrived at the real training grounds. This is the true face of Oregon, hell." She pointed toward the prisoners held inside. These are the humans who attacked the demon realm. Each one of them has killed at least one demon. Some even murdered pregnant women and children. Then, with a faint smile, she added, "Now, I'm sure you're curious about the subject of today's training." As a guard dragged out a struggling prisoner, Ada conjured a strange green light with her fingers. "Swallow this quietly. It'll all be over soon." A moment later, the prisoner's head exploded before their eyes. The students recoiled in shock. Some screamed. Adele remained calm and unfazed. "You only need to kill one human. However you choose. Simple, right?" Adele stepped forward without hesitation. While others drew back from the body, he continued ahead. "Even after witnessing such a horrific death, I feel nothing. Maybe it's because I've fully become one with Adele." He thought, no matter how worse things get, his goal won't change. He will survive to the end and fix the damned world's ending he created, as original Adele's wish. Instructor Ada turned to him. "Do you have anything to say?" As a class monitor, Adele approached the cell, dagger in hand, and looked directly at the prisoner inside. "Any last words?" he asked. The prisoner snarled, eyes full of hatred. "I only regret not killing more of you. Humans will wipe out every last demon." Without replying, Adele killed him swiftly. Hearing that before killing him, it's oddly satisfying. "Is that enough?" Ada nodded, smiling. "Perfect. Now, everyone, just like the class monitor, enter your assigned cells and begin your training." Then her tone changed. "Half-demon cadets, please step aside. This way." Adele was taken aback. "Only the half-demons? So there are others besides Luna and me in this class." But Luna looked pale. She didn't seem well. Ada faced the half-demon cadets with a cold expression. "You will be tasked with killing specific prisoners." She revealed the next group. Humans once again, but something was different. Adele's eyes widened in horror. "These prisoners, they're half-demons." Ada's voice rang out clearly. "You must prove that you are not like these traitors." Anger erupted among the students. One of them kicked a prisoner, shouting, "Do you know how much we've suffered because of you?" Another screamed hysterically, "You deserve to die." Adele stood in silence. "It's starting." The air filled with screams once more. Somewhere amid the chaos, a voice cried out, "Help me, please." Then Samuel stepped forward again. He raised his hand and commanded, "Devour them." The response was immediate, violent, brutal, magical death. Adele watched the carnage unfold. He didn't need to kill them that brutally. Not with magic like that. Maybe he really did want to tear the humans apart. Adele turned and saw Luna trembling, her body frozen in place. She had completely broken down. If Instructor Ada saw her like this, she'd be in serious trouble. Suddenly, Franz spoke up. "Instructor, if I use my ability to kill them, does that count as a pass?" Ada nodded. "Yes, it does." Franz's eyes hardened. "Understood." She raised her hand toward a prisoner. Her ability took effect. "You are now bound to me. Kill the human next to you." The cursed prisoner turned and obeyed. Screams erupted once more. "Is that sufficient?" Franz asked calmly. Ada gave her approval. "Yes, you pass. What you lack can be developed with time." With a quiet humph, Franz turned away. Adele observed in silence. Franz doesn't seem to lack hatred for humans, but she's more fragile than I thought. And then, only one cadet remained. Ada turned sharply. "So, there's just one left. Cadet Luna." Luna stood paralyzed. "Prove it," Ada snapped. "Prove to me who you are." Adele's heart sank. If Luna can't complete this training, Luna collapsed to her knees, her voice cracking. "No, I can't. Please, just let me leave." Everything fell into silence. Trembling, Luna felt utterly pathetic. She had come all this way to avenge her mother, a woman who had lived a hellish life at the hands of man not even worthy of being called a father. And yet, here she was unable to act. In frustration, her clenched fist scraped against the surface beneath her. Then, quietly, Adele approached. His sudden presence startled her. He gently asked, "Are you all right?" Still disoriented, Luna murmured his name, Adele. Without much reaction, he simply said, "I will assist you with your practical. Wait here a moment." Luna looked up, surprised. Adele pulled a dagger from his coat and called her forward. "Now let us begin." He supported her hand, helping her grip the weapon properly. "It may be frightening," he said calmly, "but you must go through with it." Luna, now holding the dagger, stood rigid like a statue. Adele gently encouraged her, "Loosen your grip just a bit." He guided her hand, pointing the dagger directly at the prisoner. "You only need to move forward slowly." Eyes closed, Luna trembled as she stepped ahead. As the dagger thrust forward, she slowly opened one eye, still frozen in disbelief. Adele softly patted her back, a silent gesture of acknowledgement. That could have gone really badly, he thought. It's obvious what happens to a half-demon who can't kill a human. Best case, expulsion. Worst case, something far more grim. From behind, Ada stepped forward, her voice sharp and disappointed. "I don't understand what you were thinking, doing something like that, class president. Surely, you don't think you'll pass after this stunt?" Adele replied without hesitation. "No, but Cadet Luna will." "What?" Adele stood firm. "You said that using one's ability to kill a human is enough to pass. Cadet Luna is the only one among us with healing abilities. I'm simply acknowledging the value of her gift." Ada scoffed. "How outrageous. So what? By that logic, we abandon cadets who lack talent?" Adele didn't flinch. "Of course. If they lack talent, I'll leave them behind." Ada's expression changed. Amused, she smiled. "You really do whatever you want, don't you? I'll remember those words." She turned. "I'll attend to the others. You too. Stay here." Adele exhaled, relieved. That was close. They were lucky his answer had aligned with what Ada wanted. If it had been Ares in his place, there would have been no saving them. He looked down at Luna, still kneeling. "Looks like we got through it safely." Luna gave a faint response, and then, as the tension finally lifted, she fainted. Adele caught her gently. Did she faint from the stress? That's good. He let her rest in the corner. "Sleep well now." Then his expression shifted. It's time to begin the real game. He knew the layout of Oregon like the back of his hand, and there was still plenty of time. Adele stepped into the hallway. Spotting a guard up ahead, he quickly ducked into a nearby corner. As expected, security's tight. He'd have to descend underground. He focused, letting darkness envelop his entire body. Hidden within the shadows, infiltration should be possible. All he needed was to reach the entrance to the underground passage nearby. He moved forward cautiously, but then a guard, cloaked in a red aura, turned toward him. Adele froze. Was I discovered? With glowing red eyes, the guard stared directly at him, then turned away without a word. Adele exhaled slowly, to notice even the slightest movement as expected of an organ guard. He pressed on. Eventually, he found it, the only empty cell on the first floor. Hidden inside was the passage. He used position transfer to slip through. As he stepped onto the floor, the tile collapsed beneath him. Adele braced himself. Just as I thought. A pressure mechanism. Now the question remained. How would he reach the lower level? Adele roughly recalled how deep the protagonist had descended in the original story. He began counting the levels. 1, 2, 6. Then he tossed a dagger downward. He waited until the distant sound of the blade striking the ground echoed back. Without hesitation, he activated position transfer. He landed in a dark tunnel, an underground waterway. Next came the toxic black slimes. Their poison was lethal upon contact. But that didn't matter. Adele already knew how to deal with them. Their cores were their weak spots. Strike those from a distance, and they were done for. He summoned the Fawn of Darkness, unleashing the black blade Reindigers, striking the monsters with precision. Killing black slimes was easy once you understood their weakness. At the end of the tunnel, he found himself facing dark, flowing water. All that remained was to dive deeper into this godforsaken place. Without hesitation, he plunged in. As he swam through the murky depths, a mysterious voice echoed in his mind. Do not go any further. A great evil lies dead. Adele blinked, startled. A great evil? That wasn't part of the original plot he had written. The voice spoke again. This is the resting place of a demon who rebelled centuries ago. Could the great evil refer to a demon so powerful that even the demon king couldn't destroy it, only seal it away? Adele pushed forward. Emerging from the water, he reached his destination. Is this the place? Before him lay a colossal skeleton, clearly sealed and left untouched. Yeah, it's probably inside the heart of that skeleton. Adele smiled faintly. He had finally found it. But then an overwhelming pressure slammed into him. The heart within the ribcage began to glow dimly at first, then with increasing brilliance. The heart, it pulsed brighter and brighter, radiating ominous energy. Adele stared, stunned. This is absurd. The skeleton began to levitate, its form wrapped in a golden aura. At its center, a glowing red heart pulsed violently. And then he saw it, an emblem carved into the bones. It was identical to the Arson family crest, the same symbol tattooed onto his own neck. A horrifying realization struck him. The ancient traitor of the demon realm had ties to the Arson family. The skeleton's jaw moved, and a deep, echoing voice filled the air. Child of Arson, listen closely. Adele tensed, but nodded slightly, prepare to listen. If you can hear my voice, it means you carry the same burden, the bloodline of chaos. Beware, for it distorts the very order of the world. Obsess over its meaning, and you will lose yourself, just as I once did. With those final, cryptic words, the skeleton crumbled into dust. He looked down at the heart. It's returned to a state where you could say it's technically dead. As he picked it up, a strange red aura seeped into him. He felt it, hunger, rage, will bent on destruction. So this is a remnant of the Arson ancestors' desires. Summoning his status window, Adele smiled in satisfaction. Finally, telekinesis. He focused and tried to levitate a dagger. It wobbled, then dropped to the ground. Not a mana issue. Probably low proficiency. He sighed. He'd need more training. Still, discovering the chaos affinity buried here was an unexpected bonus. A massive gain. With nothing else to retrieve, he made his way back, careful not to attract attention. At the training area, Fern was already waiting, arms crossed, unimpressed. She asked bluntly, "Where have you been wandering off to alone?" Adele shrugged. "Just taking a walk." Fern clearly didn't believe him. As he tried to walk past her, he admitted internally that the sight of humans crammed into cages had been oddly satisfying. Fern snapped at him mid-thought. "Hey, where do you think you're going?" Unfazed, Adele asked, "Where's Luna?" Right on cue, Luna approached, calling out to him. Adele smiled warmly. "Did you sleep well?" She nodded. "Yes," he teased, "you were out cold. Someone could have carried you off without you noticing." Luna hesitated, then softly thanked him for earlier. "If you hadn't helped me, I don't know what would have happened." Adele waved it off with a smile. "Don't worry about it." But in his mind, he noted, "Now she owes me a favor. Might come in handy later." An instructor's voice rang out, calling everyone to gather. Fortunately, there were no dropouts from the field exercise. He praised their improved composure, but added, "There's still room for refinement." Now, we return to Saidan. Adele looked back one last time. The stay had been brief, but it felt like a lifetime. Finally, they were leaving that wretched place behind. Back at Saidan Academy, a week passed. Not much had changed, but the half-demon cadets had clearly overcome some of their fear after being forced to kill humans. As for Adele, he knew one thing for certain. He still had a long way to go with his telekinesis training. The instructors had been hinting that midterms were approaching. Adele remembered what happened around this time in the novel. The first-year students have launched an invasion of the Imperial School, which meant only one thing. The midterm exam was none other than an incursion into the human world. He glanced at his carefree classmates and quietly wondered how many of them would survive. Then he noticed Luna watching him. Their eyes met, but she quickly looked away. Something about her expression felt off. Later, Luna was sleeping face down on her desk. Adele walked over and gently poked her shoulder. She jolted awake, startled. "Adele, you scared me," she said, recognizing him. "You weren't responding, so I had to wake you somehow." He saw her face and says, "You don't look well. Is something wrong?" Nervously, Luna shook her head and says she is fine. Adele narrowed his eyes, unconvinced, but let it slide. Adele then invited her to have lunch together later. Luna blinked, surprised by the offer. Adele then asked if she had any other plans. She said no, and her eyes lighting up as she smiled, and said that she would eat with him. Then Adele asked her to meet him in front of the cafeteria at lunchtime. She nodded eagerly. As Adele walked away, he quietly analyzed her behavior. Emotionally unstable, but easy to read. At least she doesn't seem afraid of me anymore. Guess I earned some points back in Oregon. But later that afternoon, as he waited at the meeting spot, the lunch period nearly ended, and Luna still hadn't shown up. Adele sighed. He didn't usually eat lunch anyway. He turned, deciding to head back to the dorms, until he saw them. Renee and Diana. Adele froze. Panic surged through him. Of all people, why those two? Without hesitation, he activated position transfer, disappearing from their line of sight. Renee suddenly stopped walking, eyes narrowing. "What is it?" Diana asked. "I thought I saw my bodyguard." Renee murmured. "Are you sure? Maybe I'm just imagining it." Under a nearby bush, Adele crouched, trembling. Why are they here? They were the worst possible pair to run into, especially after what he learned back at Oregon. If they found out he was a descendant of the Arson family, it'd be over. Not only had he helped defeat the demon realm in the past, he also helped kill the demon king and his wife. He moved silently, trying to escape without drawing attention. "I think I saw someone," Diana said suddenly. "Maybe they're just busy," Renee replied, brushing it off. Adele exhaled slowly. That was too close. He glanced around and realized this hidden spot behind the cafeteria wasn't half bad. Maybe a good place to train in peace. Just then, a scream pierced the air. Adele's body jolted. That voice, he recognized it instantly. "Luna!" He dashed toward the corner. and the sight froze his blood. Luna was pinned against the wall by a group of cadets. "Luna," he shouted, panic flaring. She looked at him and cried out his name. Without hesitation, Adele stepped forward. A red aura erupted around him as he glared at the group. "What are you doing?" The bullies flinched, but their leader stepped up arrogantly. "A half-demon, like you shouldn't be class representative," he scoffed. "You think you could take all three of us?" Adele didn't flinch. In a flash, he lifted the leader into the air with his aura. The others stood frozen, stunned by the sheer force. How ridiculous, Adele thought. They dare confront me. You can't even handle my killing intent. He dropped the leader to the ground and noticed something strange. One cadet among them wasn't shaken. He stood calmly, quietly observing Adele, completely unfazed. A black spider tattoo marked his cheek. Adele observed him carefully and back to the bully. "Adele says he no intention of fighting and they should stop." Another student speak again, asking what Adele think he is doing. Adele's glared coldly and says, "You really shouldn't speak any further. I'd rather not see your intestines before lunchtime." That was enough to make them retreat. Adele turned his attention back to the quiet one with the spider tattoo. That calmness, it's rare. Luna stepped forward hesitantly. "Are you okay?" Adele asked. She nodded, thanking him. He sighed in relief. "Let's get back. Class is about to start, and we're finally learning real magic today." In class, the instructor arrived and announced the lesson. Real-life scenario magic, specifically invisibility and silence. Adele was thrilled. These were his specialties. "This isn't a luxury for demons," the instructor said. "It's a necessity. None of you could beat a human hero in a fair fight." To demonstrate, he activated invisibility, spreading mana thin and evenly across his body. Before their eyes, he vanished. Gasps filled the room. Adele watched intently. That explains it, he realized. No wonder no one noticed him during the fight with Samuel. The instructor reappeared and instructed them to begin wrapping mana around their bodies. Everyone closed their eyes and focused. Most struggled, but Franz showed strong control, expected of someone from a house of the seven sins. Even more impressive, though, was Samuel. His body had already begun to fade. The instructor watched in amazement, realizing both Franz and Samuel were prodigies. Then another thought came to him, the one with the chaos attribute. He turned quickly, only to find Adele Pixie's seat empty. Startled, he called out Adele's name. But Adele was still in the room, completely invisible, even to the instructor's trained eyes. As Adele walked the halls, he reflected on how easily he had mastered the spell. His next goal was clear, to fuse it with the chaos attribute. He planned to test the fusion back at the dorms, knowing that ordinary assassination methods wouldn't work against true threats. Suddenly, the instructor appeared behind him and stopped him in his tracks. He asked Adele if he was learning magic for the first time at Saidan. Adele confirmed, explaining that although this was his first time studying magic formally, he'd always had innate talent. Intrigued, the instructor invited him to his lab, noting that someone like Adele, gifted with the rare chaos attribute, held immense research value. Adele politely declined, saying he had other matters to attend to, but promised to visit later. As he walked away, he thought to himself, "Looks like I'll have to keep pretending to be a magical genius." Back in his room, with Samuel away, it was the perfect opportunity to practice. Adele wasn't content with just invisibility. He aimed to create something more powerful, something capable of killing a human spy lurking within the demon realm. Focusing deeply, he began fusing chaos with invisibility. And it worked, and he can't even see himself anymore. Then something went wrong. His body suddenly felt strange, and he wasn't sure if he was breathing. Worse, he couldn't deactivate the spell. Panic surged through him as he struggled to deactivate his stealth technique. At last, he broke the spell and collapsed, his body trembling violently. Time, senses, everything was blurred together, a terrible experience. And with his mana depleted, it barely deactivated, it's hard to control too. He realized just how close he had come to losing himself to the chaos. The warnings finally made sense. Still, the fusion had worked, and it could be his secret weapon. A new technique was born, a spell that blended chaos and stealth. And from now, he will call this technique absolute stealth. Suddenly, Samuel kicked him awake. Adele groaned, disoriented, and then realized he couldn't hear anything. He'd gone deaf. Later, while testing the new spell in the forest, Adele retained his hearing, but lost his vision instead. After a week of experimentation, he had temporarily lost each of his senses at least once: hearing, sight, touch, even taste. Each episode lasted about 2 hours. And despite all that, the technique only lasted 3 seconds. With so many risks, he decided to seal it away, for emergencies only, when a guaranteed kill was worth the cost. Exhausted, he lay on the grass. He had tried fusing chaos with other elements too, but none of them worked. For now, he resolved to focus on swordsmanship and improving his mana reserves. Back at school, the students ran drills as usual. Adele grumbled internally, wondering when real swordsmanship training would begin. Finally, Instructor Ares called them to a halt and announced the shift. Ares seemed deep in thought, and Adele couldn't help but wonder, was he unhappy that I had been chosen as the class leader? From today forward, they would begin proper sword training. Adele was relieved. Ares demonstrated with a long sword and then called Adele forward. He asked if Adele could channel mana into his weapon. Adele confirmed. Then attack me with it, Ares said. I'll use only my sword. Adele immediately understood it was a test. He drew his dagger, preparing to gauge Ares' skill. Adele leaped forward in attack, but Ares dodged easily and blocked one of his attacks with a sword and repel it back. Adele fall back and while studying the instructor's stance, he noted the absence of openings. In the human world, Ares would be considered advanced, but in the demon realm, only mana control mattered. Still, Adele decided to take it seriously. He dashed forward, aiming straight for Ares' heart. Ares sidestepped effortlessly, but Adele twisted midair, nearly landing a strike. The blade grazed Ares slightly, catching him off guard. Ares noted the technique was still incomplete, but impressive. In retaliation, he struck back with force, sending Adele crashing backward. As Ares approached for a final blow, Adele lay stunned. The next attack might actually kill him. From a crowd, Luna screamed his name. Ares raised his sword high and brought it down with a sharp, vertical slash. Dust exploded from the impact. Even Samuel, usually unreadable, showed a flicker of concern. But in the haze, Adele was still alive. Telekinesis saved me, he thought. I deflected it barely. A second slower and I'd be dead. Ares stood calmly, as if nothing unusual had happened. Adele, unsettled, glared at him. Were you really trying to kill me? Without flinching, Ares pulled a small dagger from his chest. I had no such intent. Now get back in line. Adele didn't buy it. He could tell Ares had meant to kill him, but he said nothing. Then Ares turned back to him. Having fought me directly, class rep, what did you feel? Adele stared at him. A tactic used by the weak. Ares raised an eyebrow. Explain. You let me use mana while you held back. You took a hit on purpose to expose an opening and bait me in. That wasn't hesitation. That was calculated. The class stared in silence. Correct. In the human realm, there are beings far stronger than you. Fighting them without taking a hit is nearly impossible. That's why you have to bait them, show weakness, draw them in, and strike with precision. Noble swordsmanship doesn't exist in my class. I only teach what helps you survive and win. Then, with finality, he declared, this isn't even swordsmanship anymore. From this point on, this is a weapons class. Adele muttered under his breath, even if we die, we should die winning. His thoughts shifted to the upcoming midterm. The instructors from the Imperial School were already on edge. A spy from a human world must have leaked information about the situation and the contents of the exam. In the original novel, it was only the Sight and students who suffered during the test. The Imperial students walked away unscathed. Adele realized Ares probably suspected him of being the spy. If he wanted to clear his name, he'd have to uncover the real traitor first. Ares turned away and told him to return to class. Adele clenched his fists. This was his chance to prove he wasn't the traitor. He stepped forward again. Ares eyed him, crimson gaze burning with frustration. "Why are you still standing there?" the instructor asked. Adele didn't answer aloud, but inside his voice was clear. Alone in the call room, Adele sat in silence. Ares would never offer him help, not just because of suspicion, but because of the ruthlessness Adele had shown in battle. But he wouldn't abandon that part of himself. He needed it to gain the power and authority necessary to confront the 7 deadly sins. He had to embrace it. Anger surged. Red energy began to swirl around him. If Ares crosses the line again like he did yesterday, then no matter what action I take, the consequences will be his to bear. Just then, Luna appeared in front of him. Startled, Adele quickly calmed himself. "When did you get here?" he asked. "Looks like I startled you again." Luna gave a gentle smile. "It's fine. Why are you here?" he asked. She hesitated. "We were supposed to have lunch together yesterday, so I was wondering if you'd like to eat today?" Adele's expression softened. "That sounds good. Let's go." Luna beamed and nodded. A little while later, they sat together in the cafeteria. Adele quietly took in the food. It had been a long time since he'd had a meal like this. Luna laughed and pointed to the spread. "There's so much. If we leave anything, the demon god of gluttony might punish us." Adele smirked. "Then we'd better eat it all." Just then, the group of bullies from earlier entered the cafeteria. Adele's eyes met the leader's. He gave a casual wave. The bully clicked his tongue and turned away. Behind him, a tattooed student lingered, silently watching Adele. Adele turned to Luna. "What's the deal with those guys?" Luna looked down. "They're the ones who bullied me. I'm not really sure why. It just started. I guess it's because I'm weak. I don't have any special physical traits." Adele recalled that her only gift was recovery. "I see," he said quietly. Luna waved a hand dismissively. "They never really hit me or anything. Just cursed at me, sometimes took a few silver coins." Adele sighed internally. "Scum," he thought. "You should stay close to me from now on." Luna shook her head. "That's not necessary. I just need to prove I'm not like the traitorous demons. That's exactly why you should stay near me." She looked up at him, puzzled. Suddenly, Adele's eyes shifted to a nearby table. "And ask Luna who the cadet is, with a tattoo on his cheek." Luna glanced over. "Oh, that boy's name is Kyle." Adele froze. The name rang a bell. Could it be a coincidence? He thought hard. Wasn't Kyle described like that in the novel? Is Kyle a half-demon? He asked. Luna shook her head. "No, he's a pure demon. Honestly, he looks scary. He always glares at the half-demons like he hates them." Adele's expression darkened. "Like they're bugs?" Adele was stunned. That's exactly how he used to look at humans back in Oregon. Kyle was becoming a strong suspect. Adele considered asking a magic paper, but hesitated. Could be a waste of money. Luna tilted her head. "You still don't know your classmates' names?" Adele made a decision. He'd confirm it directly. He already had enough data on the spy. He stood and walked to Kyle's table. Calmly, he greeted him. One of the bullies shouted in surprise, but Adele ignored him. "I heard about a half-demon girl from the Imperial School's first year," Adele began. "She only has one relative, an older brother." The bully yelled again and asked whether Adele was ignoring him, adding that the last time he let his guard down, but Adele continued provoking Kyle and says that girl's name may be Ray. The bully leader rose angrily, shouting at Adele to get lost. Without a word, Adele grabbed the boy by the tie and slammed his head into the table, right beside Kyle. He stared at Kyle coldly. "So that's your name, huh?" Kyle stood frozen, his face partly hidden in shadow. Saying nothing, Kyle turned and silently walked away. Adele watched him go, a grin spreading across his face as he whispered to himself, Found you. Later, in the academy washroom, the bully leader stood before a mirror, wiping blood from his face. Enraged, he muttered, "Damn half-breed bastard." He turned to Kyle, who stood quietly nearby. "You're going to take revenge, right?" Kyle didn't respond. The leader's frustration boiled over. "What's with the silence? You're the one who said we shouldn't trust half-demons. You started this. Now you're backing out?" Grabbing Kyle by the collar, he shouted, "Coward!" But Kyle's eyes flared with rage. In a sudden burst of fury, he slammed the bully's face into the wall. Clutching his head in a mix of pain and fury, Kyle growled, "You damn pest just don't know when to quit." One of the other students stammered, "K. Kyle, what are you doing?" Kyle turned to him with a murderous glare. "Take him and get out before I kill everyone." He walked to the sink, splashed water on his face, and took a shaky breath. Staring into the mirror, his thoughts raced. How did he know? The perception dulling and disguise spells are working perfectly, and even the spell was cast by the top class mage. There's no way my identity should have been exposed. And I'm not even human. I'm a half-demon. That should have made it even harder to trace me. Could Adele be another spy from the human world? But the House of Bears confirmed his identity personally. His expression hardened. "So then, Adele, who exactly are you? And how do you know my little sister?" A dangerous thought crept into his mind. "I'll kill him before he exposes me." That night, the academy corridors were still and silent. Inside a dim dorm room, Kyle sat awake, methodically preparing his weapon. His thoughts were steady, focused. "If I'm going to do this, I need to be fully prepared. First, I'll send the intel I've gathered so far," and began writing. My cover may have been blown by a student named Adele. Just as he was about to continue, the door creaked open. Startled, Kyle spun around. Adele stood in the doorway, slightly out of breath, but calm. Kyle narrowed his eyes and asked how Adele found his place. Adele simply smiled and wished him good evening. Kyle hurled his pen at him and says, "It would have been a good evening if you weren't here." Adele casually turned his body, dodging the pen, until it struck the wall and exploded. Startled, Adele barely had time to react before another magical blast shot toward him. Kyle raised his hand, summoning 3 glowing energy spheres. Adele, unfazed, commented lightly, "An energy bolt spell. 2nd circle level. Huh? So you're not even pretending to hide your identity anymore." His gaze sharpened. "Using circle magic like that, you must be a half-demon. That appearance must be fake, too." Kyle stayed silent, his eyes locked onto Adele. "Given how you even found this hidden dorm," he said, "I guess you've figured everything out." "Maybe," Adele replied coolly. Kyle fired all 3 energy bolts. As the blast lit up the room, he shouted, "How do you know about Ree?" While dodging, Adele silently observed him. Even in this situation, he's thinking about his sister first. So, Kyle wasn't doing this for humanity after all. Adele recalled the truth. Kyle's younger sister had been born with an abnormal condition, an uncontrollable amount of mana stored in her heart. To save her, Kyle had cooperated with the humans. "Answer me." Kyle's voice echoed through the room. Adele kept moving and smirked inwardly. "He doesn't know everything yet. Let's see if I can provoke him a little." He stopped running and spoke coldly. "Who knows? How would I know? I've never met your sister personally, but that trembling smile of hers, it was beautiful. So beautiful I wanted to crush it." Kyle exploded in fury. A red aura engulfed his body as rage consumed him. He glared at Adele with eyes blazing. "You son of a bitch," Adele smirked. "If you're going to play spy, at least speak like one. Say something like, 'Son of a Cerberus.'" Kyle roared, gathering energy into his hands, and shouted Adele to shut up, and he'll make sure Adele spill everything before he kill him. Adele smirks as Kyle took the bait. Perfect. Kyle launched another bolt of magic, but before it could reach him, Adele activated a spell and swapped positions with the bolt itself. Kyle's eyes widened. Teleportation? Even after seeing it with his own eyes, it's hard to believe. Adele smirks and says, "Close enough. Haven't you already finished investigating me?" Kyle asked Adele, "So, you knew exactly who I was from the start?" Kyle lowered his face slightly. I see now. In this state, Adele watched in silence. He's realized he doesn't stand a chance, but then Kyle's aura surged again, stronger than before. In that case, I'm coming at you with full force. Multiple energy bolts formed at once as Kyle launched his assault. Adele's eyes narrowed. That's third circle magic, and he's multicasting? At least 20 bolts flew toward him. More than I expected, Adele thought. As rage consumed Kyle, he unleashed all his spells in one massive barrage, each one aimed directly at the calm figure before him. Just as the barrage of energy bolts was about to hit him, Adele used position transfer to instantly close the distance between them. Kyle had anticipated this, but to his shock, Adele used the technique again, this time appearing right behind him. He can chain that move, Kyle thought, stunned. In that split second of hesitation, dark energy surged around Adele. Seizing the moment, he struck. Kyle collapsed unconscious. Standing over him, Adele exhaled slowly. Caught you at last, he muttered with satisfaction. Adele meticulously scanned the room, his alertness unwavering. He murmured about the extensive preparations made to end his life, pondering whether to kill Kyle or not. But he hesitated. If I kill him now, I won't get the information I need. And worse, I'll make an enemy out of Ray. He could handle Kyle. But Ray, she was different. She should have become a dragon contractor by now, with the help of the protagonist, no less. Her illness should be cured, and she would have gained a dragon's heart. Eventually, she'll become a great mage, just like the heroine from the original story. If she unleashes her full power, I won't come out unscathed. Their bond is far too strong. Besides, the transmitter Kyle used likely only sends data, no updates. That gave Adele some time to maneuver. Still, I can't let him go. Maybe there's a way to tame him. Then a grin twisted his lips, growing darker as a plan formed in his mind. As if sensing danger, Kyle stirred. Consciousness returned slowly. A chill ran down his spine before his eyes even opened. And when they did, he found Adele grinning, creepy and calculated. Kyle immediately snapped, "Just what the hell are you scheming?" Adele tilted his head, playing dumb. Kyle's voice rose, angry and suspicious. "Why didn't you kill me? Why wait for me to wake up?" "I did wait," Adele replied casually, but not idly. He pulled out a small box containing a small black serpent. Kyle's eyes widened. "You recognize it, don't you?" Adele asked. His grip tightened. "That's parasite poison, correct. This one's called twin venom. Very dangerous. Even the smallest activation can kill the host instantly." Adele continued. "Of course, it only activates when inside two hosts." Kyle's breath caught. "Two? What did you do?" Adele smiled thinly. "Exactly what you're thinking." Kyle froze. "The other half is inside Ray," Adele said smoothly. Her body really was something fascinating. Her mana sensitivity is so extreme her heart couldn't handle it properly. Made the insertion surprisingly easy. "Oh, and by the way," Adele added, "her condition? It's not incurable. Not to someone like me." Kyle growled. "How the hell could you cure her? Even the top human mages failed." "You really didn't do your research properly," Adele said, almost disappointed. As he spoke, he let a bit of mana seep into the vial. The parasite squirmed inside, feeding. "You see, the parasite consumes excess mana. That's what's saving her. Your sister can't control her overwhelming mana reserves, but the parasite can." Kyle stared, horrified. He's helping her, or at least pretending to. Could it actually be true? But he wasn't naive. "You wouldn't be telling me this unless you needed something." Adele nodded. "Correct. But first," his tone turned cold, killing intent pouring from him like a storm. "Fix your attitude. You're not acting quite right. Remember, your life and hers are in my hands." Kyle clenched his fists, but said nothing. "Now," Adele continued, "come again, I have two conditions." Kyle glared at him silently. "First, you're going to use that transmitter to send false intel to the Royal Academy. Say that Saitan is planning to attack the third-year hero candidates. Kyle's eyes narrowed and asked if they are targeting a different year, and he refused to accept Adele's demand as Ray was in that academy. Adele smirked and says not to worry. If you cooperate, I can guarantee her safety. A long silence followed. I'll do it. What's the second? You're going to withdraw from this place, Adele said. Leave Saidan. Kyle's eyes narrowed further and asked Adele, you want me to leave Saidan? Adele confirmed and says that Kyle need to do something outside for him. You want Kyle to gather and report information for me. Everything you can about the hidden realms and the demon world. Kyle, after a tense pause, finally said, fine. I accept both conditions. Adele chuckled. Things are going much smoother than I expected. All it took was a few lies. Once the Royal Academy discovers the intel was fake, Kyle will be discarded anyway. Until then, might as well make full use of his spy specialty. But his victory was cut short when Kyle added coldly, there's one more thing. You'll write a demon god's oath. If you don't, you can kill me and my sister both. Adele froze. A bead of sweat slid down his face as he stared at Kyle, who had just flipped the game. A demon god's oath was a binding contract used only in the gravest of circumstances. If the contract was broken under the demon god's name, it would take the oathbreaker's life. Adele knew the risk, but he was determined to bind Kyle with such an oath. When Kyle asked, what will you do? Adele replied that he would accept. He also thought to himself that if he managed to slip in a trick or two into the contract, breaking the oath might not be as difficult as it seemed. Adele then says that only a master-level mage could craft such an item and asked Kyle if he had one. Kyle admitted he didn't have any. Adele raised an eyebrow. Aren't you a bit too confident? Kale interjected, saying that someone like Adele should be able to obtain one easily. Adele realized he'd probably have to find the item himself. It was unrealistic to expect a student to possess something of that caliber. He began to wonder who might actually have one. Then it came to him, perhaps Instructor Robolt? I'll try to get one, Adele said. Let's meet here again tomorrow. Kyle agreed, shaking hands with him. All right. As their hands parted, Adele mused that while he had gained a useful slave, but it still wasn't enough. Even if he misled others with Kyle's false intel, he still wasn't confident about the upcoming midterms. At the Imperial Academy, no matter what he tried, the odds were stacked against him. Still, he had to find a way to succeed. Later, in Professor Robolt's study, Adele approached quietly and greeted the professor. Professor Robolt beamed. You really came? Just like we agreed. Of course, Adele replied with a polite smile. A promise is a promise. Please have a seat. Would you like some tea? The professor offered. Adele accepted the seat and the tea. Adele glanced around and says, You seem to have a deep interest not only in books, but also in rituals too, as expected of a magic laboratory professor, he said. As the professor poured the tea, he thanked Adele for coming. Adele returned the courtesy, thanking the professor for his hospitality. Then, getting to the point, Adele asked, So, what exactly do you need me for? Professor Robolt's expression turned serious. It's an important matter. Curious, Adele decided to test the professor's resolve. Are you worried I might leak it? But the professor shook his head. It's not something that can be easily shared. Adele offered calmly. Then if you wish, I could sign a demon god's oath for you. Professor Robolt's eyes lit up. Oh, if you do that, then of course I can tell you. So you do have one, Adele thought, hiding his satisfaction. Robolt reached into his desk and produced a sealed scroll. Here it is. Just like that? Adele mused in disbelief, taking the document. He unrolled the parchment and read its contents. Adele shall not disclose Robolt's research materials and will assist in the research until significant results are achieved. As payment, will be given to Adele. Adele narrowed his eyes slightly. Did you prepare this in advance? He asked. Robolt simply laughed. Adele glanced back at the contract and said, Let's revise the terms a bit. If, during the course of the research, it's determined to be beyond my abilities, I may withdraw my support. In that case, any compensation received will be returned. Robolt nodded in agreement. Fair enough. Then, What kind of compensation do you want? Adele didn't hesitate. I'd like the demon god's oath contract itself and some mana potions. 3 bottles of high-grade mana potions should suffice. They instantly restore mana to full capacity upon consumption, so they're essential for me. Understood. That's cheaper than an elixir, Robolt remarked with a nod. Now you just need to sign. Adele took the quill. I just write my name here. Yes. Still, curiosity tugged at him. I'm curious. Why did you choose me specifically? There must be more talented cadets than me. Robolt replied. Actually, I asked several second and third-year students for help, but most of them weren't helpful to my research. So I even approached Samuel from the first years. Adele raised a brow, and he bluntly refused. Said it was too annoying. Adele smirked. Yeah, that sounds like Samuel. He signed the contract, noting to himself how natural it was becoming to use an alias without including arson. Robolt took the signed document and infused it with mana. It's done, he said. Let's begin right away. It was then that Adele got his first glimpse of how a demon god's oath was truly enacted. Robolt moved to the back of his study and slid aside a section of the bookshelf, revealing a concealed passage. Such a place exists in Saitan? Adele thought in surprise. Do the principal and the other instructors even know about this? Adele followed, astonished to find a hidden laboratory beneath the professor's office. This is underground? He muttered. Robolt walked over to a secured pedestal and retrieved a weathered book. This is the item I've been researching. Adele examined it with interest. This book? Yes. It's believed to be an ancient item. An ancient book, Adele murmured, running a hand along its rough surface. It does look like an old manuscript. He flipped through the pages. There's no writing in it. As you can see, most of it is blank, Robolt confirmed. But there's writing on the last page. I see. Where did you get this book? Adele asked, eyes narrowing with curiosity. I found it by chance, Robolt explained, in an abandoned house. An abandoned house? Adele echoed. Yes. I had business in the western desert, and there it was, just sitting in the middle of the sand. Adele furrowed his brow. An abandoned house in the desert. There was a large oasis nearby, Robolt continued. Judging by that, there must have been a village there once. So you're saying, aside from the book and the ruins, the village just vanished? That's the only conclusion I can come to right now. Fascinating. Would you like to see the sentence written on the last page? Robolt offered. Of course, Adele replied. That's the whole reason you asked for my help, isn't it? Exactly. Here, take a look. Adele carefully opened the book to the last page, his eyes scanning the faded characters. Adele narrowed his eyes as he examined the page. There really is some writing. Yes, but I haven't been able to decipher it at all, Robolt admitted. Can you make out what it means? Adele frowned. There's no way I'd recognize such strange letters. Now you understand why all the other top students failed? Adele questioned. Have you made any progress with the research? Robolt shook his head. No, not at all. Then maybe there's a clue near where the book was found. I thought that too, Robolt said. I visited several villages nearby, but no one knew anything about the ruins or the book. Robolt said with a sigh. Trying to figure it out without any clues, Adele leaned in closer. This is rough. What if I go home empty-handed? He thought. There has to be some hint in that sentence. Suddenly, a strange pulse surged through the air. Adele blinked. What the? Why is my necklace reacting? The text is moving? Am I seeing things? Adele squinted at the final page of the manuscript. The strange letters shimmered and twisted before his eyes. Fragments began to form, defied the rule. The letters were changing so Adele can read the rule. Defied the rule. Cursed remains. Everything is vanishing. The wise refuse to believe. Until the clock stops. Adele muttered to himself, I can read it, but I have no idea what it means. As his necklace glowed in response, he was certain. It's connected to the demon god. Robolt noticed his silence and asked, Is something wrong? I interpreted the phrase, Adele said. Robolt got surprised. and Adele narrate the sentence to Robolt and said, I don't fully understand it yet, but I was able to read it. Incredible, Robolt exclaimed, eyes gleaming. The syllables line up perfectly. As expected, it seems to be linked to the chaos attribute. Since that's such a rare trait, this has immense research value. I'll need to study it more before I'm certain. But for now, this is a huge discovery, Robolt said. And Adele noted, yes, we'll likely need to search other regions for similar relics or texts. Robolt nodded. Cadet Adele, this is more than enough from you. Adele gave a slight nod. Understood. Then Robolt interrupted eagerly, ready to pay. You'll give it now? Adele asked. Of course. Just a moment. Maybe for the oath. That's understandable, Adele thought. But I assumed the potions would take longer. Robolt began rummaging through his shelves. Adele's gaze shifted back to his necklace. 3 of the rings are glowing red now, because of the book's influence. Once all of them are tainted, I have no idea what will happen. For a moment, he considered. Maybe I should give a necklace to Robolt. I don't know how to use it anyway. Robolt called out, found it. Adele then thought that it's tied to the demon god. He should keep it himself, even if we're working together now. I still can't fully trust him. Here you go, Robolt said cheerfully. I'll pack it in a bag for you to carry more easily. Adele thanked him and says he appreciated. Robolt says he should be thanking Adele. Without Adele's help, he never would have been able to read the page. He hopes we can continue working together. Adele says he'll help as much as possible. Robolt says, oh, and please, don't speak of my research to anyone else. Adele gave a faint smile. I read. Well, that depends on what you do, instructor. Wait, are you going to break the oath? Robolt stammered. Adele stepped closer. Isn't this research being conducted without the principal's approval? Adele notes that if he'd followed proper procedures and gotten Citan's authorization, there'd be no reason to make a secret oath like this. Seeing Robolt's panicked expression, Adele's suspicions were confirmed. As I thought, if this gets exposed, I might even be expelled. But since we're in this together now, Adele added smoothly, I'll support you all the way. Robolt exhaled shakily. Adele said he just need a mana potion. Adele took the bag and inspected the contents. Robolt gave him. It's not bad, Adele concluded. Thank you. I'll be off now. As he turned to leave, Robolt called out, by the way, what are you going to use the oath for? To secure a slave, Adele replied without turning back. Outside, someone stepped into his path. You're here, Kal said, standing in a shadow. Adele raised a brow in reply. It's been a while. Kal crossed his arms with a smirk. Don't give me that been a while stuff. Did you bring the oath? You're no fun, Adele said, pulling out the sealed document. Of course I did. Now, shall we draft the contract? Samuel raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. I didn't think you'd actually get it today, that you're the one who told me to get it. There's no backing out now. If you break this promise, Adele said calmly, you'd better be prepared. He handed Kyle the document. Now, review the contents carefully and sign. Kyle skimmed the contract in silence, then nodded. All right, I'll swear the oath. The terms were precise. Adele shall not pose any threat to Kyle or his younger sister. Adele shall not assign Kyle any task that endangers his life. With a quiet breath, Kyle signed. Adele rolled up the completed contract. He didn't waste a moment. Here's your first order. Kyle listened intently. Understood, he replied. I'll send the false information right away. Adele handed him a folded document. And Kyle insert the paper through this slit. Transmission begins immediately. So that's how it's used, Adele muttered, watching the mechanism work. Fascinating. It takes astronomical mana and funds to open a gate large enough for a person. But this channel recharges automatically, Kyle explained. You can use it once a month. Adele thought that it might come in handy later. But once they think I've been taken down because of the fake intel, they'll stop using it. So it'll become useless soon anyway. Adele asked, raising an eyebrow. Wasn't this a mutual agreement? Kyle sighed. Whatever. Think what you want, brushing it off. Only one command remains, Adele added, voice low and serious. Mr. Kyle, starting Toda, you'll leave Saidan. You are to gather all possible information about the demon realm beyond Saitan's borders, Adele instructed. That includes hidden realms, noble demon clans, and relics. First, find a location of a nearby hidden realm and begin research on the Seven Sins families. Send me a letter every 2 weeks with your findings. Kyle gave a curt nod. Maybe it's his background as a spy, Adele mused, but he really follows orders quickly. Kyle extended a hand. Can't believe Kyle's the one offering a handshake. Adele thought with mild amusement. Then I'll look forward to your future work, Adele said. Kyle scowled. Quit it with the future work talk. Just hand over the money. I need funds if you expect results. Adele scratched his head. Didn't think of that. I don't have much on me now. He paused, then said, wait a moment. Let's ask Crete for help. If you give them my name and show this. He handed Kyle a sealed document. Even the Barrett family will assist you. Just don't open it on the way. Kyle tucked it away. I'll head out today. I'll leave Saidan the moment I turn in the withdrawal form. You move quickly, Adele commented. Kyle scoffed. Nothing's more disgusting than being surrounded by worm-like people. From the next day, Kyle disappeared from Saidan. When word spread that he had officially withdrawn, Adele's name surfaced briefly due to the incident in the cafeteria. Luna had grown suspicious of me as well. Can't blame her, Adele thought. That whole scene happened mid-meal. But the real problem was the instructors, especially Ares. He's definitely convinced something's going on, but he still can't touch me. Only a few days remained until the midterms. If they try to replace the class representative now, the chaos would be obvious. The next morning, an instructor, Ada, entered the lecture hall. Hello, everyone. Your midterms will begin in 3 days. A murmur ran through the room. There will be 4 subjects: weapon techniques, understanding humans, magic, and practical training. The instructor paused for a while and announced most important one is the practical exam. The practical exam on the final day of midterms is an invasion of the human school, the Royal Academy. Adele smiled slightly. 3 days. Adele thought, it's finally beginning.